And now we get to finally progress the plot once again.
Oh yes, apparently we do.
Now we are going to Japan.
In a little bit.
But hello everyone, welcome to the Big Cat Aethercast.
I am Ray.
I am Leo.
And it has been a while, but
not too long. We probably did a lot more than what we thought did, and now we have probably one of the longer Aethercasts for a while.
Yeah, we've got quite a bit of stuff to talk about. I've got a full list here, and so I'm just going to go ahead and say sorry in advance for how long this is. But first off, we should talk about our job progressions lately.
Yes, so I haven't made too much more progress. I capped off Machinist's plotline in regards to becoming accepted as a part of Ishgardian society. I also finished the Astrologian questline. So that one I didn't talk about the last time too much in detail, but mainly the 30 to 50 questline was opening all of your gates, which involved visiting constellations around various points in Eorzea. Funny enough, this questline was also supposed to mimic Louis Sua's travels around Eorzea when he was trying to gather support against the Dalamud drop.
Oh, really?
And so he also made a similar journey, and there's comments of, I think at least there's references to that old quest line, which was later discontinued.
Yeah, they do have that new quest line where you can follow one of Louis Sua's followers to know about the backstory of people who were around during the time of the Calamity.
Right, and that's another way of sort of just wrapping in of, hey, here's, in case you weren't around for 1.0, this is sort of what happened then.
Yeah.
Which was, I thought, a very creative way of working it.
Yeah.
In the background, of course, there's the story about our mentor who is here illegally. She's basically fled from the Sharlayan mages after they left the continent, and so she's basically spreading the knowledge secretly.
Oh boy, the Sharlayans. You're not going to really meet the Sharlayans until Endwalker, because that's where you can actually go there. But just know that basically they're snooty, they like keeping secrets, and they don't, let's just say, they don't like war at all for the most part. They're non-interventionists, which it's kind of a stupid opinion, kind of a stupid ideology to uphold in a world like this.
Right, it is. It's also just rather weird because they are certainly one of the more interesting characters. So you eventually, if you get closer to Laveva, who is your main mentor, and once you finish the 50 quest line, she gets threatened to return back to Charlie and to answer for her crimes, and you end up having to pull a daring rescue with your two NPC buddies in order to make sure that doesn't happen. One of the stranger pseudo escort missions, in that you have to pick off members of the guard as they deal with roadside distractions, but you cannot assault the main body otherwise, because there's like 18 of them, and so it's like a death sentence if you try to ambush them all. And then eventually you get to a point where it becomes a more reasonable managed battle. In the 50 to 60 quest line, it is revealed that Laveva's father, who had left her when she was a small child, was actually the first Sharlayan astrologian to try and come to Ishgard, where he was summarily assassinated, which is at least hinted at by his journal, which is being hunted by one of the Sharlayan headhunters. And so you go ahead and you are sort of explaining, spreading more of the knowledge and wisdom of Sharlayan astromancy. One of the things I will say interesting after the fact, I believe this is the only sort of faith-based healing class out of the four, because as I understand it, scholars use spirits.
Yeah. Scholars use fairies.
Fairies. The white mages are just using a different aspect of ether.
Yeah, just using the white side of etherology.
Of etherology, which is again, referenced in the red magic school as well as in the black magic.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have sages who are sort of a weird techno-science.
They're techno-science because all theirs are supposed to be, they've applied their ether applications to medicine. Mm-hmm. So they're technically doctors.
So out of the 4 healing classes, it's the only one which is actually, in any sense, faith-based. Mm-hmm. Which is very interesting because given, all the talk about gods and worship, you actually don't hear too much about that unless you're paying attention to side quests. And this is one specifically which explains how the different gods are divided, as well as their overall personalities and faiths.
Yeah, you'll also learn quite a bit more about the gods in Endwalker.
Right, for different reasons, though.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and say this right now. Leo has seen me go through one of the Myths of the Realm raids. Mm-hmm. He has seen Nafika's great fat tits.
Yes, along with Halone's spear.
Yes.
So that one, I would say, as far as that being my first healer class, I found it a little bit more manageable once I respec the buttons to where it was in a tolerable way to do it. It's definitely not efficient on controller, but it's doable. I found myself still dropping a tank more than once, but for the most part, as long as I was focusing on the tank, I felt that I could go ahead and handle it.
Yeah. For this, I'd say just keep your healer leveling up just so you can do like side quests and stuff like that.
And really, for the most part, it's probably just going to be that. Maybe just on an occasional thing where it's like, hey, someone else in the party is trying to level up a different class to where I'll switch to be a healer, but really I'm more comfortable with tank or DPS as far as grade progression and things like that goes. Machinist, there wasn't really much to add. I think the main thing was that the pirate mentor, we went into his back, we found out what his deal is, why he's so fucking distant, and why he's kind of been a hard ass to us for the most part, but it's out of a reasonable understanding of he got his men killed and he's been literally paying the families back ever since. Mm-hmm. And despite the fact that, of course, the Ishgardian Knight who's been bullying the workshop is kind of a pain in the ass, we still save him from a dragon attack, and so eventually he learns to just cool his fucking jets. Mm-hmm. But that's really most of it as far as the job progression goes. I did get into different jobs, but that we'll discuss later on.
Yeah. However, I don't remember if I mentioned this last time. I did say that I had gone through Dark Knight. I know that much. I have also completed Gunbreaker.
So how is that? Because I've touched Gunbreaker just barely, just to unlock the class, but but since I haven't really started 60 plotline, I haven't actually progressed it much more than that.
Well, I'll just go ahead and say this: the rotation for a Gunbreaker is basically a DPS. Mm-hmm. It is you have to try to fit as many offensive skills within this one within this one buff, mm-hmm. which I wish the buff lasted a little longer.
I think everyone would probably at that point.
Yeah, but it's very fun. It's actually one of the more fun tanks to play because it's more engaging. Like, I like Warrior for its healing ability, so I can just run in, do stuff. I can do wall-to-wall tank pulls, no problem. It's pretty fun. But I like Gunbreaker simply for the fact that it's just more fun to play. Mm-hmm. The storyline mainly deals with Radovan and Sophie, a pair of Bojin refugees who escaped from being quite literally tortured by the Garleans, to the point that Radovan has literally been exposed to so much shock collar torment that he will freeze up in the middle of a fight from how his heart is basically been damaged from it. Yeah. And Radovan lost both his wife and his son in the Boshin incident, and so he's a very grizzled old man who quite literally says he probably would have killed himself if it weren't for Sophie's help.
Wow.
I think the 60 to 70 quest line mostly involves around them traveling across Eorzea, trying to do odd jobs, just trying to make a living. And soon enough, it ends up with them landing in Ishgard, where they're tasked with helping a Garlean refugee who it was trying to defect, much like Cid and Nero and those like. And it turns out that the guy that was defecting was one of the members of the Meteor Project.
Oh, wow.
And basically one of the reasons why Radovan was in that situation to begin with. And he was about ready to... And, well, it looked like he was going to end up killing him instead of trying to be his bodyguard. But in truth, it was because he knew he was being followed by the person who actually put the shock collar in him. I forget the name of the antagonist, but basically he's a very twisted man who uses shock collars to make his soldiers fight for him. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And he basically tried to lure us into a trap where we had to take care of him.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Still pretty potent stuff.
Mm-hmm. It's not the most in-depth quest line because after Stormblood, a lot of quest lines kind of got condensed to kind of end at around 70, mm-hmm. and then having a level 80 capstone, and then for the following ones, it's just the first 10 levels for your quest line of your job that give you your quest line, mm-hmm. which kind of sucks. If I'm perfectly honest, I wish there was more role quests for jobs, but...
Well, I mean, they have to sort of decide where they're going to do it. They can only fit so much in.
I know. They can only do so much, and there were so many jobs by the point of Stormblood that I kind of get it. Mm-hmm. But overall, I enjoyed Gunbreaker. And I'll get onto this later, because I have my own excursion that I went on to, but I think we should go ahead and talk about some of the side quests that we've been doing.
Yeah, so I went ahead and we did the Briardian quest line in Ishgard, which is sort of interesting because it's his own... It doesn't start out as being...
Well, for one, if you don't remember, Briardian is the guy from the Hildibrand Quest.
Right, the inspector, the consulting inspector.
Yes.
But it doesn't start out that way. It starts out as you basically helping out a bunch of school kids in a very, like, Harry Potter light-esque storyline of basically a lot of the... there's a lot of kids, obviously, who are raised in the church schools who are highborn, but there are a couple of lowborn from the Broom who are picked up either for skill or for diversity reasons.
Yeah, and
so two of these kids who are from the Broom are basically chiding out one of their former colleagues who dropped out basically because he was sick of being bullied by the highborn, and he was literally burning books in down below the Forgotten Knight.
Jeez.
So. There's an investigation about him taking books, and then literally people are disappearing from
the school,
getting bullied out, and it's causing concerns amongst the staff. Enter Inspector Briardian, who is relatives to one of the
two of them.
Initially he's the nephew to one of the instructors.
Yes,
and so initially he's called on board to assist in the search for the disappearing children. To which we happen to be there helping the Harry Potter and Ron Weasley step-ins, and we basically team up with him, having had our adventures with Hildibrand before, and thus having Briardian's implicit support.
Mm-hmm. In which we continue to investigate for a while, and then we discover that another member of Briardian's family, his little sister, is among the students.
And is actually one of the ones who was potentially targeted by the group of... I guess we'll call them the Slytherin Squad, because effectively they serve as the Draco Malfoy type.
Yeah.
And his two...
I hate using Harry Potter references, but this is the closest we're going to get.
It is absolutely meant to be a Harry Potter reference. To the point that basically Briardian's niece is literally Hermione. and they are this universe has the proper shipping of Hermione and Harry Potter.
Yes.
So that is literally what happens. It is a bit of a murder mystery. You go around, and then you eventually do find out who was responsible for the disappearances and why.
Which was basically the bishop.
The bishop, who basically has his own interpretation of the laws and readings, and disagreed almost. I'm trying to remember.
He basically disagreed with everything. Like
he was going to go full authoritarian.
He was going to go full authoritarian because he was basically one of Thornton's supporters.
Yes.
So basically, we just helped weed out another root of evil seeping its way through Ishgard.
Right. And so
that's not going to be the last one.
Right. And I believe they literally mentioned that he is one of like a number of basically sleeper agents that Thornton had prepared in case of his demise, that he basically can go ahead and activate, and basically was one of his many contingencies, like how we saw Emmerich getting stabbed in the middle of the fucking street.
Yeah.
Which, actually, that's a spoiler. Because we haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, yeah.
No, that did happen before, right?
That did happen.
Okay, that did happen before in the first. Because he shows up a bit in the second patch notes, but I couldn't remember if that was before or after. That was before.
That was before.
Okay, so that did happen. At the end of the quest line, you get the robes of the students. You also get Briardian's
spectacles
emote, and a pair of his glasses as well.
Yeah, which I'm willing to bet you've been using quite often.
Yes, I have.
Okay. So that's the Briardian's quest line taken care of. And then another thing that kind of happened in between episodes is the Final Fantasy 16 crossover event.
Everyone freaking loves having their titties hanging out.
Oh, of course.
So
the Median armor is fucking amazing.
Yeah, no, it was so popular they absolutely had to include it as part of the benchmark demo, so that way people could see their character in the new graphics with that armor set on.
Of course. Basically, the whole thing for the 16 crossover is that in the events of Final Fantasy 16, when Clive is at Phoenix Gate and he has the fight with his inner self, he then somehow transports to Eorzea and loses his memory.
And so, if you remember us talking about the Final Fantasy 15 quest line, which also goes through very similar beats.
Yes.
This is basically the same thing, but with Damage Boy Clive instead of Fishing Boy Noctis.
Yeah. And basically, it ends up with the Wandering Minstrel, a.k.a. Yoshi P. Self-Insert, going around and trying to find out some information about him, and then we find out that Ifrit is one of the main key points in Clive's memory, and we basically have him fight Ifrit, which starts off looking like our Ifrit in 14.
And then it transforms into his Ifrit from 16.
Yes. In which we get some nice combo effects that we could do mid-fight, which is dodging and stuff like that.
Yeah, so like in the 15 fight with Noctis, where you could do the link strikes to go ahead and keep on the pressure, you actually get the chain, you get the dodge mechanic out of 16, and you also get the
Phoenix Wing.
The Phoenix Wing
Rising Phoenix attack.
Rising Phoenix attack. So you also get that as well as a free action in addition to doing whatever your normal loop was going to be.
I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of Stormblood bosses have that gimmick.
Of the dodging?
Not the dodging, but having a button that you press to trigger.
Oh, okay.
Like,
to do an extra action.
Yeah, like I'm just going to give you a warning right now. There's going to be a boss where they're going to try to charm you. Mm-hmm. You have to activate this thing before the charm takes effect. Otherwise, it's a wipe for you.
Okay.
Yeah, and then it also does like a pushback that will knock you off unless you activate the ability as well.
Okay.
And a lot of the Omega raids also have this kind of gimmick as well, where you activate something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. But yeah, that's generally the gimmick. At the end of the quest line, though, you get your own Tortle mount, as well as a Tortle Pup minion.
Which, I gotta say, as a Hrothgar, we look way too big for Torgal.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm crushing the boy.
Imagine it would be very different if you were a Lalafell.
Oh God.
Which, by the way, I don't know if we discussed this, and I feel like this was specifically omitted. You told me that Yoshi P personally plays Black Mage.
Yes, I told you he plays Black
I
Mage.
think the part that you left out was that he plays a Lalafell Black Mage.
To be honest, I forgot that he played a Lalafell Black Mage.
And so I found that out on a random Twitter thread one day, and I texted you the post, and then my response was, you forgot to neglect that Yoshi P was a potato. So not only are potatoes, royalty in universe, but they are, by canonical choice, the producer's personal use race.
Yeah.
You are literally squashing the children of God.
Don't say that. Fuck. Oh, God. God damn it.
And while my co-host goes in and suffers from potato poisoning, we can go ahead and circle around to the Coils of Bahamut.
Yes, I basically made Leo go through the Coils of Bahamut unsynced with me at level 90 and him at level 60 or so.
Yes.
And we basically just burned through it as quick as possible. I just wanted him to get the story beats.
So for the most part, we won't talk about the combat just because it's obviously... Unsynced is very different than if we were going through the synced.
Yeah.
But the main story of it is that Alice comes back after hearing about all of our shenanigans going through ARR and wants to investigate about what exactly happened with Louis Soir.
Wants to investigate what happened with Louis Soir. And also, at the end of ARR, that roar that we heard was supposed to be Bahamut. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
So there were some vestiges of Bahamut that needed to have been investigated, which leads us back into the plains of Cartano, which we can only get access to certain ether points around
the area,
around Mordama, and eventually going back through the blue cerulean fields.
Yes, but basically we go through like the first coils of Bahamut. Mm-hmm. We fight some bosses, and then at the very end we see that Bahamut is basically still alive somehow, just the head at that point, but being revived by the Allegan machinery.
Mm-hmm. And so, basically, there have to be different access points to go ahead and reach Bahamut, and we have to deactivate the machinery from preventing a full revitalization.
Yeah, so in this first turn, we kill the first one, and then... I believe several patches later, we get to the next turn of Bahamut.
And so the turns of Bahamut themselves generally are like mini dungeons. They're not quite what they would be like raids, but I believe you mentioned that was their first attempt at what the raid structure would have looked like.
It was their first attempt at the raid structure, and it was also extreme level content back in the day. Mm-hmm. So it was the hardest of the hard stuff to go through back then.
So, and as far as the idea, they definitely took a scattergun approach as far as what content it was. Sometimes it was just a mass of enemy waves like it was a normal instance. Sometimes you would have boss enemies that you have to deal with. I know that there was one which was basically, hey, you got to go and explore this winding maze of labyrinths in order to find the boss.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's one. The avatar that we had to fight. Yes. And we kept dying to it.
Which we found out was because we basically didn't give it enough time to set up, and that the incident we were facing was a failsafe.
Yeah, we were basically killing it too damn fast. Mm-hmm. So I had to slow down my DPS to just do nothing and let the auto attack hit.
Yes.
Until the towers formed, and I said to Leo, go to that tower, I'll go to this tower so we can desync them so it won't wipe us, and it worked.
Yes.
Another famous boss from it is Twintania, which is the dragon with the coil thing around its neck.
Yes.
Which was also known as a very infamously hard fight back in the day. Mm-hmm. And as we continue going through, we end up encountering what appears to be the White Raven itself from 1.0, Nail Van Darnus, or as they're calling themselves now, Nail Deus Darnus.
Mm-hmm. Who is, I believe, who is their sibling that we see in game? Because they have a sibling.
Okay, so the thing about Nail Van Darnus is that her brother was the real Nail Darnus.
Okay.
And so what happened was he died in combat, and she took on his armor and used a voice changer to be him, basically, and make sure that his name would be infamous. And throughout the world.
Okay.
In more ways than one.
And this is not the only time we'll be discussing fake siblings or fake people being imposed by their siblings in this podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's also, we're jumping ahead for that one. But yeah, so we continue going through the various coils to activate another Allagan machine, although this time Bahamut's about 50% done.
I'd say about 50%.
50% done. And then finally we do the last coil, which leads us, the entire time there's this vestige of Louis Soir inside the Allagan machine, but we haven't been able to really respond to him. And by the last coil, we actually do get to talk to Louis Soir. It is basically the remnants of him that were also basically attempted to be revived with Bahamut. But basically, he's just a fragment of himself. And
a fragment of himself that got turned into Bahamut's thrall after the end of the events. And also, you do end up, we are kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but you do fight Nail Van Darnus, which is a very kind of tricky fight with a bunch of meteors and stuff.
Oh, right, I did forget that, yes.
Yeah. And then she gets speared by Louis Soir.
Right.
Yeah. And then we encounter Louis Soir, who then turns into the Phoenix.
Right. And has sort of, as he admits later on, he basically became a primal in and of himself. Yeah,
that was the only way he could beat Bahamut.
And so you have a boss fight with Phoenix, goes ahead and he gets sort of have some closure with Alice
and Alphino, who also shows up.
Who's also joined by this point. And the two of them basically embrace. It's a very sweet moment where they basically have to cooperate with each other in order to go ahead and prevent a fully revitalized Bahamut by this point, exaflaring us to death.
Pretty much. What they do is they use their twin tomes, which can be read separately, but read together can be a powerful instrument, and they basically use that together to stop Bahamut and allow us to enter the body of Bahamut to fight its prime form. And that's not the only time you ever fight a prime form.
No, we have fought Prime Alexander.
Yes, exactly.
But that was the first time where they were doing that as far as the timeline is concerned, because this is ARR.
Yeah, basically the prime form is the core of a prime.
Right. And so that boss fight's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I'm sorry you had to spend most of the time on the floor on that one.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's just the nature of Unsynced, you know.
I should have played a summoner so I could have revived you.
Yeah, but we didn't think about that, but next time that would probably be the better way to have done it.
Also, that would have been funny for me to use my mini Bahamut against that Bahamut.
Against the actual Bahamut, yes.
Yeah.
I can imagine so. But in the end, we do manage to go ahead and destroy Bahamut.
And basically the whole thing about this is we need to keep all of this under wraps.
Well, the big revelation is that the idea was that Louis Soir Immortal was the one who killed Bahamut and managed to defeat the primal. In actuality, he had to become a primal himself in order to go ahead and do so.
Yeah.
And what he basically wants is, you cannot tell anyone that I'm a god now, because that's only going to cause this. It's when one, defeat the entire purpose of humanity coming together, banding together to become the three great cities that we are, the Eorzean Alliance.
Yeah.
And two, potentially basically create a cult in his name and cause all the primal situations to also become more localized.
Yeah.
Which he did not want and absolutely detested. And so the big secret is that Louis Soir's a primal.
Yeah, that's the big secret. And all in all, I kind of enjoy. You get an amazing CG cutscene of him piercing through.
Right, you actually see him like DBZ punch through Bahamut, which is amazing.
Which also gets referenced in Final Fantasy 16.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because Ifrit does that to Bahamut in that game too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I'm going to gush for a second. The whole Bahamut fight scene in Final Fantasy 16 is pure poetry. It is the peak of that game.
We did forget to mention that the end of the 16 crossover event was, please buy this game.
Yes.
Please buy my friend's game.
No, not please buy my friend's game. Please buy my game.
Oh, yes. Please buy my game. My other game.
Yes.
I forgot, but yes.
Yeah, because remember, Yoshi P and Yoshida are both one and the same.
Yes, I do forget that at times.
Yeah.
But yes, so that is the cause of Bahamut. There's some catty nature because what's his name? Urian J kind of knew some of the details, but was purposely leaving Alice in the dark, to which he's like, I'm sorry. He's like, never do that to me again, you nitwit.
Oh, he will do this many times.
Oh, yes, we will. We will. This will not be the first time Urian J has betrayed Alice's trust.
Yes. But anyway, there was one thing that I wanted to have Leo look at after he had finished the Dragon Song War, which was to look at Renoa's video of the Dragon Song War Reprisal Ultimate.
So, the Dragon Song War Reprisal Ultimate raids basically is a sped up alternate version. What if of what would have happened had
Haurchefant
survived, and it explains basically in a long form detail. It starts off as a series of raids, basically extreme versions of.
No, these are the ultimate versions,
right,
of every single fight in Heavansward.
Right,
the fight against Sir Sharibear and all the knights in the vault first, and then going to King Thordan, then going to Nidhogg, and then for some reason it does a time loop and goes back in time back to the fight with Sir Sharibear and the other knights.
Right, and so basically, the major thing is that it replays the moments where Haurchefant makes a sacrifice and makes it a part of the boss fight.
Yes,
and so as the video basically is documenting the raid at the time of release, basically everyone's trying to figure out how you progress, and eventually it's determined, or people come to the realization. In order to actually proceed, you have to save Haurchefant.
Yes, because at the start of the fight, you only had 2 bars for your limit break. But when the time loop comes back around, you have all 3 bars, which was something that a lot of people didn't realize at first. But when they did, they figured out you need to do something in order to save Haurchefant.
Right, and so I think that, what was the solution?
Because otherwise, the fight was going to loop again and again and again.
Right, so what I'm trying to remember, was the solution tank LB3 or was it healer LB3?
I think it was tank LB3, but I think you could target, once that happened, you could target him with healers.
Yes, and so you could basically keep him alive.
Okay, keep in mind, I don't remember the details properly, sorry in advance.
Yes, but basically the idea was that using an LB3 would allow you to target Haurchefant, keep him alive, and that was the progression point for the fight. And it's at that point that a literal timeline schism appears. And you begin to go ahead, you redo is it the Thordan fight now? Or is it the Nidhogg fight?
It's the Thordan fight.
Okay, so you redo the Thordan fight because with Haurchefant alive,
we are not incentivized to go hunt after Thordan as viciously.
As viciously as we used to, which meant that we go after Nidhogg instead.
No, Nidhogg's already dead.
Okay. Or not Nidhogg, we go after...
No, we still end up fighting him, but Thordan has taken control of the other dragons.
Okay.
That's what has happened. But what happens is, we also have to end up sparing him, because we're too soft-hearted.
Well, the other assumption would be that Haurchefant insists on showing mercy to him.
Yes.
That could be also one of the interpretations of it. And in doing so, it results in Hreisvelgr
and Nidhogg coming in.
Well, Nidhogg's dead.
No, Nidhogg does come back because he's possessed because Astinian still gets possessed.
Right, so Astinian still gets possessed. Nidhogg does take over. Hreisvelgr decides to team up with his brother rather than helping us deal with him.
Yeah.
And therefore the 2 brothers go ahead and fight us, which gives Thordan time to come back, possess both dragons,
get all their eyes,
and become a super deity in and of himself.
Yes.
Which, as this point, the traveling minstrel is basically saying, this is the price of saving the one that you loved, and this is why he had to die.
Yes.
And so basically the whole thing is an alternate version of this is why he had to die. And so you eventually beat Super Thordan at this point,
which also causes Hreisvelgr and Nidhogg to die properly.
Right. And I think that's at the point the raid ends.
Yes.
But the entire thing was to show the alternate side of the coin for if not for Haurchefant's sacrifice.
Yes. Because a lot of people were like, let us save Horse. We wanted to save Horsefon.
And so Yoshi-P was like, okay, monkey sparkles up.
Yeah, pretty much. So what did you think of the ultimate raid itself?
Absolutely madness, and part of the reason why I would never want to do extreme content.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Ultimate content is something you have to dedicate weeks to. Mm-hmm. And I don't think you have the time to do that.
Nope. Also, probably the most traumatic thing to happen to Horsefon since Benny G.
Yeah. Oh. You're awful. Alright, that's all most of the side stuff taken care of. Now we
talk about personal side shit.
Yeah.
So, besides doing, I told Ray that I found an interesting, YouTube short where basically, you get hidden dialogue by doing certain quest lines before others, and that will give you different dialogue it doesn't give you different dialogue options, but it changes how certain characters react to you. One of the ones that I found out was that in the Paladin level 60 quest line, it basically is supposed to be a tournament arc, and one of the characters is actually someone in that tournament arc is someone you meet from the blacksmith quest line, mm-hmm. who will comment about, I didn't know you also fought with the weapons that you forged. And so I thought that was a neat character moment, so I decided I was going to do blacksmith as one of my crafter classes. But I also decided, you know what, I'm doing blacksmith, I might as well do armorer.
And then goldsmith.
And then it hit me, you know what, I might just go ahead and do all fucking three. So I did armorer, blacksmith, and goldsmith. Leveled them up basically from scratch to level 60 at the time of this 62 at the time of this recording.
And you were spending quite a few hours on that.
Yeah, the worst bit of it was once I hit past 30 for all of my crafters, I was like, fuck it, I'm going to grind this thing as hard as I can. And I think I spent I'm pretty sure it was I'm trying to remember if it was an evening. I'm pretty sure
I believe you told me you were up till 4.
Yes. I regretted that. I'm trying to remember. The thing I'm trying to remember was whether or not I had work the next day. I think I did because I was miserable that work day. Staying up until 4 in the fucking morning, doing...
Don't you have to go to work at like 6 or something?
7, but yes.
Oh.
So yes. So I that's what I'm trying to remember because I don't remember how bad I was, but it must have been fairly bad. But I can go ahead and sort of... So... all the crafter classes, at least as of ARR, because they all start off in ARR, basically are the same introduction. You meet the Guildmaster. The Guildmaster gives you some basic instructions on how to do your shit. And then you start to unravel and find out each of their unique quirks. For Blacksmith, your master is a raging alcoholic. Yep. And he cannot be fucked to do certain jobs, which means that you are interacting with your guild... representative directly most of the time, who is the one who gives you most of your jobs because he's kind of pissed with your alcoholic guildmaster.
Yeah.
Your armor guildmaster
is a Makote.
Who's had a falling out with her Rogadin battle armorer buddy. They basically were both taught by the prior guildmaster. And while they were both competent in their own right, she was selected as a guildmaster for her actually nurturing ways of mentoring versus the Rogadin, who was kind of a fuck it, you do it right or I smack you upside the head type mentality.
Yeah, and you basically learn to humble him.
You humble him, but also you learn about more of his own motivations for that.
I forget which one. Was it the blacksmith or the armor where Merleweb goes and shoots one of the armor?
That was armor, but that's at the end of the quest line.
Okay.
And then the last one is the goldsmith, which is probably the one that naturally has the most humor, given that Godbird is the one is the representative of that guild.
Yes. You talk with Serendipity.
You talk with Serendipity, a Hume girl who basically is at odds with her with the guild's Mammoth. This Mammoth, also going by Gigi, basically has had the knowledge of all prior guild masters
for the past 100 years.
And basically is incredibly critical about what he demands in order out of his goldsmiths. To which he has some snark. He has some very much snark in him, because at one point he makes a quip at the guildmaster's behest, saying that her bust is her. I'm trying to remember the exact insult. I have to go through our DMs now because I remember fucking dying when I fucking heard it. It's pretty early on, and then basically
didn't he basically call her flat-chested?
He called her flat-chested and flat-butted, in which she was embarrassed and and shocked by it.
Yeah, I forget. And that quest line ends with...
But the quest line goes back, and all the quest markers do start to branch out at a point. For the blacksmith quest line, it eventually reveals that he was basically looking for someone to give a weapon to a gladiator that he knows, and that he was acting as an intermercenary. Basically, he was a part of a trio,
Rogan, right?
Yes, he was part of a trio with a fighter known as Bronze Bull and someone known as the Killer Phoenix, who was a different Makote. And basically, the Killer Phoenix retired, and despite the Bronze Bull fighting with her sword, he has gone on a losing streak, and has since then considered retiring. The capstone has you building basically a replica version of his sword, but with the Phoenix's blessing, in order to go ahead and sort of remind him of what he's fighting for. Mm-hmm. And he literally takes your sword and breaks it against his in order to see whether or not it's worth him continuing. Mm-hmm. It is, and he eventually makes a comment of, if she was the one behind this, she could have given it to me herself. But, mystery reasons are mystery reasons. And so for that purpose, he parts, and apparently he's the character that's going to be the one that you interact with in the Paladin questline.
The Bronze Bull.
The Bronze Bull. The Armor questline is the one that you're thinking of, in which so it starts out as a best of 3 contest with the Rogan Armor. You win the first one naturally.
Yes.
And when you're about to do the second one, your guildmaster actually steps in and says, we need to actually borrow this piece because for another blacksmith that kind of fucked up. And we need you to go ahead and help you bail them out. And this is someone you've interacted with earlier in the questline before. So you consent, and she asks you if you'll talk to the rogue rival and ask him if you'll give him the extra time. He says, fuck that. You didn't bring the part, you forfeit by default. And so it's 1-1, and so now the tiebreaker is the full suit of body armor, which Merweb is going to be the judge of, which starts out, she has 8 of her storm guards go ahead and go out, start hacking at the men wearing your armor with hatchets. Even, I think, one of them doing a limit break on them at one point.
Yeah.
And then Merweb's, okay, let's take it up a notch. And she draws her pistols and starts popping them in the chest and arms. To which freaks out your guildmaster, which she's like, ain't gonna do much good if it can't block pistol fire. And luckily, your armor holds up, his armor gives out, and that's how you win the contest.
Yeah.
But it is quite hilarious to see Merweb just pop a cap.
She literally just pops out her bloody executioner and says, alright, let's test this out now.
Yep. And then the guildmaster...
And that's also why Merweb was one of my favorite city-state leaders.
Yeah, I don't blame you for that one. And then... for the Goldmaster, you basically, there's a plot line in the back about someone stealing precious jewelry across from different nobles in the region, and the initial suspect is a new to town Lalafell, who is basically sort of an entrepreneur, and he's basically like investing in new people, and so he becomes sort of your patron for the most part. And he's implicated in the thefts before it even happens, but Gigi is able to determine that it's not the Lalafell, but it's actually the Sultan's Sworn Guard, who has sort of been in the background. And he was hinted as sort of being like having eyes for the guildmaster, and no, it turns out he was just using her just so he could find out who's the guy I can start stealing from.
Yes.
Which was actually pretty clever of him, and it ends with...
the Lalafell punting his entire self into the Sultan's Sworn Guard.
Yeah.
Literally headbutting
Sumo headbutt style, yeah, just E-Honda rockets into the guard, and you see, like, almost Mandervillian facial expressions out of the man.
I mean, it makes sense given the guild.
Yes, and so that's why I was severely disappointed that there is not more humor than this, because I really thought having more Manderville in... You need more Manderville in your Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah, well, some people would disagree on that, and I say they're wrong.
Yes. God damn it! I just had the fucking clip, and now the Discord's reset on me, so I could not. But no, because I remember this because it had me freaking dying.
Yeah.
But the comment exactly was the Mammoth goes, all your flaws come together and make this piece look good. It's certainly better than the Guildmaster's lacking chest and flat buttocks. That's exactly what the line was. I think it was at the 15 level marker that he drops that bombshell. It's like, damn, girl, you got roasted by the Mammoth.
That thing has 100 years of sass built into it.
Clearly. The level 60 quest lines are a little bit more nuanced. This is when they start to stretch them out. It's not every 5 levels. It's about 3 levels.
It's every 2 to 3 levels.
2 to 3 levels. So for Blacksmith, I'm trying to remember what the Blacksmith one is. Shit. This is the one. So you go to Ishgard and you are basically on retainer to a failing noble house. The father was stripped of his arms because he wouldn't go along with your evil Ishgardian plot like normal.
Yeah. And
so his 14-year-old daughter, who is fucking short for an Ellison, she's almost Lalafell height, to where it shocked me just how short this character model is.
I mean, you've seen Onawa.
I know, but still, it's just fucking...
Ellison proportions are fucking weird when they're small.
Yes, they are. So,
which makes me wonder what the fuck's up with Alphino and Alize.
Yeah, it is. It makes you wonder.
Yeah, but also I will tell you this right now: Yoshi-P has no plans to age either of the twins up.
I mean, why would he?
Yeah.
He knows what this fan base is about. Why would he give them more ammo?
Yeah, fair enough.
I imagine.
Also, he doesn't want to do time skips.
I mean, that's why the entirety of every plot point occurs within 1 year.
I mean, pretty goddamn much.
Which is everyone's calling bullshit on, because we literally had a decade of Final Fantasy 14 by this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's mind-boggling. But anyway, so you're helping out this impoverished noble house, basically crafting weapons for the little girl as she's trying to prove her worth in being noble. And the big thing is that she thought that you were getting paid for your services, when in fact it was basically being donated at the behest of the House Carl. And at one point, when she's about to go fight a major tournament with her armor, you basically reforge a family heirloom, to which she finds out that you haven't been compensated with it, and was going to refuse the weapon out of her own chivalric code. And only basically relents once, when dealing with the moral quandary of letting it all go to waste versus fighting for what she believes in.
Mm-hmm.
And so she basically agrees to fight with the condition that she gives you whatever she earns out of the tournament. She actually loses, which is surprising, and she's very much heartbroken before one of the knights comes over and says, "Look, we actually were still going to reward you for your valiancy. And we're going to give you a commission. We're going to start you out in a commissioned position as a squire before you can work your way up to knight."
Mm-hmm.
And so, in the end, it's a very wholesome story for Blacksmith. I did start the Stormblood version, which basically has a swordswoman from Kugane land in the docks. She's accosted by some admirer, is all we're told about. But given the situation in Kugane, all I can think of is, you are going to come back later. We're going to have to shank you.
Yeah.
So, but apparently she wants to come learn under our drunken guildmaster, which...
I remember this one.
which I can already tell, we are going to have some foibles, aren't we?
Yeah, let's just say, she kind of falls for the blacksmith.
Wow.
And the father does not approve.
No shit! I wouldn't approve either! As a Hrothgar, I'm almost mildly insulted. But I digress. So that would be fun.
I think that one was one of my favorite ones, because I think the father literally is about ready to draw his sword on him when you go to Kugane.
Oh, fucking good. Please test your blade out on the drunkard. The armor guild quest basically falls in a similar vein. So the armor 50 to 60 quest line. Your Herogadin rival is thoroughly pissed off that you basically have beat him through the power of friendship, and says, "Fuck that shit, I'm gonna go test this out in the dungeons myself." To which he basically gets gassed and knocked on his ass by a giant rat. A band of adventurers comes by and sees him struggling against the rat, dispatch it, and is like, "You know what, you make a lousy adventurer, but you know your shit when it comes to armor, we're going to commission you in the future." Mm-hmm. And so you basically work on hire with your Rogadin rival, who basically wants you to help commission what's seen as outrageous demands from this adventuring party, when it's basically like,
just get them better armor.
Get them better armor. He needs to learn how to make light armor for the monk, make flashy armor for the Vein Dragoon, and then as you start crafting for these adventurers, you go talk around to the other guild masters for insight on different crafting materials and aesthetic design choices.
Yeah, like I think you go see Rondelet Rose of the Weavers Guild.
Yes, you go talk to the specifically, you go talk to the carpenter and the there's another crafter you go talk to. Leatherworker in regards for light armors for the monk. You go talk to the jeweler and the weaver for the dragoon, and then later on you talk to the you talk to your chief, the armorer, as well as the blacksmith for the gladiator. The gladiator. So that's the A plot. The B plot is that the adventuring party is also having its issues. The healer and the tank are at each other's throats because the tank won't reposition, and the tank is telling, "Get good, healer scrub."
Oh God. Tank is going, "Healer adjust."
Yes, literally, it says, "No, you!" And so they're at each other's throats. The tank says, "Fuck off, I'm gonna go see my girlfriend," which actually is not what he said. He says he's gonna go see his woman, which actually turns out to be he wants to go say a prayer to Halone to make sure that his teammates are still under divine protection after he's left them. Mm-hmm. And so you actually have to go make the pilgrimage to him because apparently he did not get his green card.
Of course.
And so you make the prayer for him before going back, and the healer says, "All right, we need to get a new tank. Can you make a shield good enough that they would be willing to come back and to be willing to be taken on as a hire?" And so that's how that comes back, and the tank eventually reveals, "No, I'm the one pissed off because you never get good armor either." And both the tank and the healer are basically in their basic equipment.
Yeah, they're basically in item level 1 gear
when they are level 60.
Yeah.
So they basically have a come to Jesus moment about, okay, we need to go ahead and fix our shit before we get wrecked.
Yeah.
And then the level 60, I think, is just you have to go ahead and reconstruct some armor because the Rogadin rival made it too tight for the tank and it was causing problems.
Yeah.
But eventually, he eventually learns the lesson of he was trying to do everything on his own, and it really does take a village to go ahead and not just open your skills, but open your horizons to what new things can be made.
Yeah, which thankfully he does warm up a little bit too. Yeah.
Yes, and to which the level 60 plot line seems to be, "Fuck it, I need to go reinvent myself. I'm going on sabbatical to Kugane."
Yes.
To which he's like, "You don't have to quit. You could just go on sabbatical. Whatever the fuck that means, as long as it means I can come back, then I can go do what I need to do. I'll do it."
Mm-hmm. And now for the goldsmith one, which I actually do remember a bit more about because I did kind of help you through it a little bit.
Yes, you helped me through it by being my sugar daddy again.
Yes. God, now I know how my friend Ron feels. Because when I was leveling up all my crafters, and I mean all my crafters, yes, I am an Omni Crafter, he loaned me, I think about 2 million gil to help me get through this.
Only 2 million?
Only 2 million.
He only took out a small loan of 2 million gold. I'm pretty sure I've taken more from you.
Yes, I'm pretty sure I've given you about 3 to 4 million.
And I appreciate every gil.
Yes, just don't call me your sugar daddy again.
All right, Gil Grandpa.
Oh, fuck. Bonk. Okay. But anyway, the Goldsmith Guild is basically...
You go work for a guy named Marcel, who is the... basically the head, the proprietor of a jewelry store named Istam.
Yeah.
And I'm saying it because that's the way it's spelled. Istam!
Okay.
And so basically, you were brought on to work on a special commission project for Jeweled Peak, who is the wife of some famous Immortal Flame officer, who basically, their anniversary is coming up. She wants to get him something special. And the theme of the Goldsmiths arc is form to the formless.
Yes.
Which is what basically is... It's actually very thoughtful, because it goes into the idea of jewelry makers and artisans in that craft in the real life. They don't necessarily make items for the item's sake. They create memory. They give memories physical form.
And in this case, the end result is that both the husband and the wife both wanted to get something for the other, and they both ended up deciding on making a music box.
Yes.
And so the result is that you end up going to Ishgard, I believe, to get a special music score.
Yes, you go. Well, they want they want songs from Ul'dah, and so because they both want the same thing, they're concerned that they don't want to do duplicate gifts, because that'd be very tawdry. So instead, they ask you to go speak out the songwriter for the singers and ask him what to do.
Yeah.
And so he says, "I've got you covered, fam. Do this one favor for me, and I'll go ahead and get you what you need." So what's interesting is that this is one of the few ones where it feels like everything you have crafting missions in between, and all the crafting missions build to what you would need to do to craft the music boxes.
Yeah, you're basically making all the different components for said music box, which you require a special Master's Craftsman book, which I had to help you get.
Right, but that was just more of I needed to know how to get it rather than you actually getting it for me.
Yes.
But you go ahead, you go to the songsmith. He goes ahead and you do his favor, and he's like, "Okay, I'll help you out. I've composed two pieces together that by themselves are fine, but you play them in unison, and it creates a third harmonic song that is much better than the individual two pieces combined."
And so you end up putting those into a Star Ruby and Star Sapphire music box.
And present them to the husband and wife, and it's a very touching moment to go ahead and have this happen together. Obviously, the husband's a bit more of a klutz, the wife is the more detail-oriented one, and so you're able to really it's a really sweet, wholesome moment that doesn't need too much over-explaining, but it does really emphasize what it means to be a goldsmith as far as form to the formless. And I think that was a very beautiful crafting quest line, even though it lacks the dramatic flair of the dramatic tension of helping out the little knight with restore her honor, or dealing with the quarreling party members in the armorer's quest line.
Yeah, every crafter's quest line is interesting in and of itself. Funny thing, you do continue the quest lines up through Stormblood, but by Shadowbringers, what they have is a special hub that you go to that has requirements for specific crafter quests. Like, one guy needs a blacksmith or an armor or a goldsmith. Mm-hmm. One guy will need a fisher. One will need a botanist. Mm-hmm. One will need a weaver or a leather worker. And so you basically continue those quest lines, which are separate from what you've done before.
Okay. And
it does end up culminating in something at the very end.
Okay. Now, because I've sort of petered out in terms of those are going to take a while, I have told you I intend to at least pick up Botanist, and then I might continue on with
Miner?
Weaver. No, Miner I'm still doing, but I did unlock what the Miner 60 arc is, even though I'm like level 65 because I was grinding up collectibles for a fuck while.
Yeah.
But the Miner quest line appears to be that you're helping out in Idleshire, and you're actually going to go ahead and help gather ore for a special project that they're working on in Idleshire.
Yeah. By the way, for the final quest in that, it's going to be I think it's a specific time node that you're going to need to have like maxed out gear for.
Gotcha. I'll keep that in mind. The other thing that was interesting just in general was that the collectibles work mildly different. You actually need to go to the collectibles menu to build collectibles to give, which is how you do scripts for Chloe for that aspect of it, which is different from doing it for gatherers, but I understand how it works now. So
yeah,
what's interesting is that it's like, oh, so this is where the fucking crafter shit is for the higher levels. Because like I was buying everything off of a market board, which, as I realized, got very expensive very quickly on certain items.
Yeah, and this is why you're going to need a gatherer alongside your crafters.
Yes, except I was kind of I did not, because I unevenly leveled them, it created problems later on.
Yeah, that'll happen. What I tend to do first is level up my gatherers, then my crafters.
Yes, I also didn't want to bother doing basically a gathering day and then a crafting raid. I just wanted to do the crafting vein. Hit me with the serotonin to my veins. Also, I came to the sad realization you can't buy gold gil in Final Fantasy XIV, but as you explained, they didn't want to crash the economy.
Pretty much.
But it also makes grinding a bear. But
and this is why you try to report those bots in fucking Limsa. Yeah.
All right.
But anyway,
why don't we talk about your what you have been fapping about with?
Oh, so I entered a special level of madness recently.
Go ahead and go on and tell the audience what you've been delving into.
I decided I wanted to make a few relic weapons.
So, what are relic weapons? Because I have heard the name tossed around, but I don't actually know what they are. Are they different from artifacts?
Relic weapons are basically for each expansion there's a relic weapon. And they are supposed to be the end-all, best-in-slot weapon for that expansion. And they're usually very glowy and very hard to make. They are usually a status symbol for people who have spent the time to actually make them. I am avoiding the A Realm Reborn one because the Zodiac relic weapon grind requires doing a bunch of fates and way more time than I'm willing to spend on.
Which is a sad thing for me because I actually want the relic weapon for Monk.
I don't blame you. So what I started on first was the Anima relic weapon, which actually turns out to be one of the easier relic weapon grinds that isn't the fucking Manderville one.
That's Heavansward, correct?
That is Heavansward, yes. So the whole plot line of the Anima relic weapon is you're trying to help this one little crafter, this one little Ishgardian noble boy, to try to create life from the research from his predecessor. Mm-hmm. He's trying to create an anima, a living being, out of nothing, basically. And so Rowena thought it would be an interesting thought of a way that it could be made manifest by infusing it into a weapon and giving it life and experience through battles and hardship and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And so over time, you upgrade it bit by bit. It requires a lot of tomestones because you have to exchange those tomestones for items from Rowena, as usual. The fucking greedy bitch. Mm-hmm. But, yeah. And the end relic weapons are very beautiful. The Anima relic weapons are some of the best looking relic weapons in the game.
So how much of a time, like, from initial... For each step in the process to level up the weapons, how long of a time commitment would you say it is?
Very big. I actually have a list right here of the poetics required for each step.
Okay.
So the first step, for the most part, is... Okay, so first off, you actually have to get six elemental crystals by doing fates in each of the Heavansward areas.
Okay.
Each Heavansward area gives one specific element, and you exchange those for an umbral and astral crystal node, which you use to create the weapon.
Okay.
Afterwards, you have to go through 10 dungeons. They tell you which dungeons to do, from ARR hard to Heavansward, which ends at the vault.
Okay.
And you basically do those dungeons. Thankfully, you can do those unsynced at my level. Mm-hmm. So you can do them really quickly. And then you get a nice glowy weapon. Then you have to basically start tomestone grinding for unidentifiable ore, bones, seeds, and shells, which can cost you up to 6,000 poetics tomestones.
Okay.
Or you can get them from doing the first rung of the Alexander raids, by exchanging the precision item that you get at the end of every fight, 3 for an item. Or you can use the Beast Tribes tokens that you get from Heavansward and exchange them for the seeds, ores, bones, and stuff.
Gotcha.
Then you have to spend tomestones to get Aether Oil for the next upgrade. And then you need Umbrite and Crystal Sand, which you can get by trading in Crafter's Scripts.
Ah, okay.
And then you need Singing Clusters, which you can get a bunch of by doing a weekly grind. And then Newmite, which you can get from both tomestones or company seals for your free company.
Okay.
And then the last one is another tombstone item.
Okay.
But all in all, you're spending over 20,000 tomestones to get them.
And so how much of a time commitment? 20 hours?
Probably about a week. If you're spending the whole day grinding.
Oof. So 40 hours, let's say?
Approximately.
Ah, damn.
And that's one of the easier ones.
Mm.
The other one, for the record, the weapon I made was the Dark Knight one.
The Cronus Lux.
The Cronus Lux. And I am also working on a second Anima Relic weapon at the moment.
Which one?
The Summoner.
Ah, okay. Oh, yes, the
Dragon Book.
The Dragon Book.
Yes, because it works perfectly for my glam. That's another one I'm working on. Another one that I just recently finished was the Boja Relic weapon.
For Gunbreaker.
Yes, because I wanted the Gunbreaker weapon for the area that was Gunbreaker focused.
Right. Now, that is Shadowbringers, correct?
That is Shadowbringers.
Which means the name Eureka?
No, that is Stormblood.
Okay.
Stormblood is Eureka. Shadowbringers is Boja.
Okay.
And they don't have another open area instance like that anywhere else. It's only Eureka and Boja are the two instances like that.
Okay.
They are planning on getting a new one for Dawn Trail.
Okay, and that's the
upcoming expansion.
No, but have they hinted at what it was?
No, I haven't heard.
Because the Cyber City is a sanctuary. That's something else entirely.
Yeah, Solution 9 is supposed to be the second hub area.
Okay, that's going to be freaking weird.
Oh yeah, and it's also where the raid is supposed the 8-man raid is supposed to be at.
Okay,
which is called the Arcadion.
Oh, that's gonna bring some ideas.
Yeah.
Okay, continue.
But anyway, the Boja relic weapon is a pain
because
you need to go through Boja for the most part.
For those of us who are uninitiated, what exactly does that mean?
Okay, so Boja, you go into Boja, which is an instance. It's like a 2-hour time slot for you to go through it. You do critical engagements and fights and stuff in order to raise your medal, which is your rank, and you basically have to go through and do fights and progress the storyline.
It's basically like its own mini hub world.
Yes,
or its own mini overworld, where your rank is separate from your regular rank.
Yeah, there are fights that you can pop into. There's dungeons you can do, which are really hard, and there's all sorts of stuff. And it basically is talking about the revolution of Boja, in which the Hrothgars are trying to fight against the Garlean invasion. Okay. Because Garlemald is kind of collapsing at the point.
Yeah. So you did show me that one video which explains how Eureka works.
Yeah.
And I'm just assuming that.
Yeah, I showed you the pint video.
So I'm assuming it's just similar. It's just Boja's is the harder version of that.
It's not the harder version. It's a more streamlined version of it. Because there's only 2 areas you need to go through.
Okay.
You go through the Bojan Southern Front, and you go through Zadnor. And sadly, Zadnor is fucking dead.
Okay. Which means that no support.
You basically have to go through it mostly solo, unless and that means I might have to figure out a way to do the final quest line for that eventually. I might need to get some friends together to help me with that.
Yeah.
Or find a Discord server to help me with that. But basically, there's alternate ways to get the materials you need for the Bojan relic. Mm-hmm. One of them is not just doing Boja, but by doing Fates in Heavansward to get specific materials.
Okay.
And there's also, sadly, one that you actually have to do repeatedly you had to do what's called Delibram Regine, which is a specific Bojin dungeon.
Okay.
And it is very hard. You have multiple fights, and basically every single fight in that thing will give you doom.
Oh, joy.
Yeah. If you get hit, you will get doomed on. And the end fight is Queen Gunhilder.
Really?
Yes.
The famous Gunhilder, which gave her name to the Gunblades.
Yes. Well, it's basically someone from the Bojin Resistance who defected to Garlemald, who was actually an ancient descendant of Queen Gunhilder.
Ah, okay.
Who basically stole her powers and basically became a primal. Yes,
This game is getting fucking weird.
Yes. And basically the Queen Gunhilder fight is actually pretty fun, if I can be perfectly honest. It turns into a chessboard.
Oh, wow.
And she has minions that move specific parts, and then you also get inflicted with a status effect where you have to move specific.
See, Cherubert, that's how you go ahead and play chess. You don't just put a bunch of knights on the board and say they're fucking rooks.
But yeah, another one of the fights, which is one of the Trinity fights in Delibram Originae, is really cool because it's a temperature-based fight.
Oh, really?
Where you get inflicted with either 1 or 2 nodes of either hot or cold, and you have to balance it out with stuff on the field, like either AoEs on the field that have the specific opposite, or you have to get hit by the sword strike that has the specific temperature.
Okay.
And if you do not get your temperature regulated properly, dead.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But that's actually a pretty fun fight. And it also has a ladders game that you have to...
Oh, goody. More subsystems.
Yeah. Trust me, fights are going to get a lot more complicated, dude.
No kidding.
Yes. I think some normal raids in Endwalker would be considered extreme, or would be considered extreme for ARR.
I mean, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. But anyway, the Bojin Relic was a grind and a half. It took me way longer than the Anima Relic. Because I ended up because there was also a quest line that I had to do to unlock further parts of the Bojin of the Relic grind, which thankfully I don't have to do again. But basically, I had to do 60 of the Alexander raids, the Omega raids, and the Eden raids.
60 before you could go ahead and do...
Before I could continue the quest line.
And that wasn't... You needed to gather materials from there.
No, I needed to gather materials from those fights, because you needed 30 of one item and 30 from another item for each quest line.
Oh, okay.
And one of the items comes from the first 2 of each of the sections of the raid, and the other item comes from the last 2 sections of either of the raid. I fought Kefka way too many fucking times.
I can imagine.
Yeah, but that took a while. Thankfully, I don't ever have to do that quest line again.
Okay.
Because once that's done...
That was just to unlock it.
It was just to unlock the final step. Which, thankfully, the final step was I could just do level 70 dungeons.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you still have to do Omega.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, the weapons look fucking amazing. They're worthless at this point, but they look fucking amazing.
Right.
And so they're basically just glamour at this point. And yeah, that was my madness for the past month and a half. And will be continuing to happen for the following month.
Yeah, so now let's go ahead and get... do you want to do... how do you want to do this? You want to end with the patch quests, or do you want to end with Soul Arc and Hildibrand?
I'd say let's end on the patch notes, since that is the end point of everything.
Yeah, and that goes into... Okay, so we also did the Soul Arc series of dungeons.
No, it's called the Shadow of Mhach Alliance raid, or the Void Arc raid.
The Void Arc raid, sorry.
Yeah, because you got 3 Alliance raids: the Void Arc, the Weeping City of Mhach, and Dunscaith.
Right.
So the whole thing about this is that we're dealing with sky pirates.
Yes, and we're dealing with the good kind of sky pirates, the one who go ahead and steal from the greedy and give to the poor.
Yes, we are dealing with Leofard Mist
and his hapless band crew of sky pirates.
Yeah, including Stacia and Utada Uta.
Yes.
And basically, they've been tracking what's been known as the Void Arc, which has been a floating ship of sorts in the Sea of Clouds for a long time.
Right. your typical ghost ship type anomaly.
Yes, and Utada has basically made a compass that could actually track its location, to which we use to go into the first raid.
Right. And so the Void Ark raids are
they're follow-ups to 2 dungeons in ARR.
Yes.
Because I believe it's the Lost City of Amdapor and Amdapor Keep Hard.
Yes.
In which you encounter Diabolos and Furriad.
Yes.
2 Void Scent, which make their reappearance in this raid.
Yes. And so you finish the first set of the Void Ark series, and you end up waking something that probably shouldn't have been woken.
Yes, you find out that the Void Ark is basically an ancient Mhachi warship that was powered by Void Scent, because the Mhachi, who are the progenitors of black magic, use Void Scent to power their machines and stuff.
Yeah, that has no possible repercussions against them.
Yes.
Well, it turns out it did, and so the Void Scent are not happy about being used for fuel, and they plan to go ahead and get their revenge on mortal kind.
Basically, Diabolos infiltrates the Void Ark in an attempt to revive his queen, Skathak.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, as Skathak is starting to awaken, we get told to escape the Ark by none other than Kate Sith.
Wait, when did Kate Sith go on a diet?
Yeah, this Kate Sith is ugly as fuck.
It's spindly little fucker.
Spindly little fucker with big bug eyes.
Yes, and a very sassy attitude.
Oh yeah. Sadly, I prefer the other version of Kate Sith, but
it's pronounced Kate-Shi.
I know it's pronounced Kate-Shi.
But we don't give a fuck.
Yeah. I mean, they call it Kate Sith in game. I'm just going to go with that.
I know. I'm just fucking with people because I understand the vibe, but like Kate Sith. That's what it is called. Deal with it.
I will alternate between Kate Sith and Kate-Shi, but for the sake of this video, it's Kate Sith.
Yes. So Kate Sith goes ahead and joins Leofard's crew, basically to admonish him for waking up the evil.
Yeah, basically, Kate Sith was supposed to be something left behind by a great sorcerer of the Mhachi people to keep an eye on the Void Synth within.
Yes. And so, unfortunately, Leofard's reckoning has basically endangered the liberty of the skies, and so he gets his crew to go ahead and investigate further so they can try and resolve the issue.
Yes. And as a result,
However, in doing so, one of his old ship rivals, Radlia, who is the...
Radlia Keen of the Talons and her Gooner squad.
Yeah, that we're not making a joke here. We're not... That is actually what they're called.
They're goons. But,
no,
God, that word has gotten so butchered now.
Yes.
I miss the old days when a goon was just a loyal henchman.
Nope, not anymore.
No.
Although, you'll be funny to note that the subreddit R Goon Cave has been taken down for revenge porn.
Oh, God.
So
I did not need to know that, but okay.
But it's gone now, so one less blight off the face of the internet.
Yeah, anyway, Radlia basically makes Utada a hostage and demands the compass.
Thinking that there's still treasure on board, even though that's hardly the concern that Leofard has at the time.
Yeah. And basically, Leofard relents, gives the compass to Radlia, but he had snuck a link pearl inside of the compass, so he could listen in on Radlia's machinations.
Of course, shit goes south for Radlia, and she's about to get her ass handed to her, and so Leofard's like, fuck it, we're gonna go save her.
Yeah, in which we have to go to the Weeping City of Mhach. Now, this raid, there's at least one fight, and there's a couple of fights in this that are interesting. The first one is that one demon who makes you have to get zombified, otherwise he uses Mega Death on you.
Yep, that's correct.
And then you also have to fight Ozma, of all fucking things.
Which, that's going to bring back memories, or that's going to bring back horror stories for later.
Yeah. And then you have to fight a weird hair Void Scent. But basically the whole thing for this was to get something called a Nullstone, I believe?
Yes, because basically you're going to do the same thing that you did with the, I forgot what the shadow folks that we deal with in the main storyline.
The Ascians.
The Ascians, yes. I didn't want to call them Alligans because I know that's not what it is, but it starts with an A too. So we're doing basically what we did with the Ascians, just with the Void Sense.
Yes, we're just basically using a special MacGuffin to basically wipe them out.
Right.
But Diabolos and Ferdiad get the upper hand and basically steal the Nullstone.
Yeah.
And basically shit gets whacked, and we are ended up having to go into Dunscaith.
Right, in order to prevent them from fully reviving Skaha. In which there's Leofard being the sort of laissez-faire, skirt-chasing pirate, and Kate Sith being the no-nonsense, dutiful servant, are at a personality clash with each other.
Oh, yes.
And it's very much conflicted as to why the fuck, even his own killer is wondering, why the fuck do you even care about Radlia in the first place? And you eventually find out that Leofard was an orphan who was adopted by his mother.
Yeah, who was adopted by an Elzin noblewoman.
An Elzin noblewoman whose visage is in his study,
and it is also the name of his ship,
and which he basically lived through the stories that she told him as a kid. And when she died, he basically wanted to live for her. Mm-hmm. It basically going around and adventuring and doing all this stuff.
Live free,
because she herself was constrained by Ishgardian society.
Mm-hmm.
And so that essence is the reason why he cares so much about not just the freedom of the skies, but also the freedom of every other independent person.
Yeah, which is why even though he dislikes Radlia, he still saves her ass
out of this code of honor.
In which she does compensate him by allowing us to use her new high-tech vessel to go through and enter Dunscaith.
Right.
How'd you enjoy that first fight?
Oh boy, that first fight was something.
Yeah. I forget what it's called, the Death Gaze or something like that?
Yes. No, now I remember Death Gaze. That fucker killed me so... I think I wiped at least 3 or 4 times. I did not enjoy that fight.
Yeah, that's a fight that will either knock you off the edge or suck you into oblivion.
And I wasn't even playing Dragoon.
Nope. But yeah, you continue on going through it, and then you end up fighting a proto-Ultima weapon that somehow ended up in the area.
Right. That's not really explained well, but you do have to deal with it.
I believe there's actually a quest line you can do in Ishgard where you keep redoing Dunscaith to get parts from that Ultima weapon to get a special item.
Yes, I have seen the vendor for that. I just never knew how it was you were supposed to get those, but that's where.
Yeah. And then you eventually go through the dungeon a bit more, and then you encounter Skathak. Wait a minute, the dungeon's indicator says we're only like halfway through.
That's because when you kill Skathak, Diablos absorbs her power and goes into a super mode.
Yes.
And arguably this is probably one of the more entertaining fights in the entire Alliance raid.
I still fucking hate the door mechanics.
Right.
I hated them in the Lost City of Amdapur. I hate them here, and I will hate them in the final Boja dungeon.
To remind me correctly, basically you have to jump in through doors in order to avoid a mega attack that's an auto wipe.
Yes.
So, but more impressive than that is the laser boss fight that you have, or the
beam clash.
The beam clash that you have by basically helping along the Nullstone mid fight.
Yes.
Correct?
You basically attack through the door to send your energy through to attack him, so he can't fight back, and then he reabsorbs Skathak, and it becomes Diablos Hollow. Mm-hmm. And at first, it doesn't look like you're doing any damage to him. He just has an invisible health bar. Mm-hmm. And so eventually, you deal with him. Leofard comes crashing in to stop him,
despite being injured and told to stay the fuck behind.
Destroys his ship, which is sad, but it allows Kate Sith to destroy Diabolos.
Yes. He also got nuked by Diabolos earlier, which you see this charred little kitty get up to go ahead and beam Saber, the big bad void, sent to death.
Yes. And thus ends that. Leofard says the skies are now safe now. The rivalry between him and Radlia is back to normal.
Yes. Kate Sith sort of is left without purpose, but Leofard gives him a home with the Red Wings.
Red Bills.
Or the Red Bills, and even gives him a scarf to welcome him aboard the crew.
In which we also get one, too. Mm-hmm. And so we're an honorary Red Bill pirate as well. And that pretty much ends the Shadow of Mhach Alliance raid.
Yeah. It's definitely. I wouldn't say it's definitely okay. I wouldn't say it's better than the story for
The Crystal Tower?
No, probably better than Crystal Tower, but I mean, it can't hold up to fucking Alexander.
Yeah, fair enough. The Alexander raid is actually really good.
Yeah,
and that raid will end up paying dividends in Shadowbringers.
Everyone keeps saying celestial noise detected. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
Celestial noise detected. That's for Endwalker, my friend.
So
no. That's for Endwalker, my good bitch.
What? Okay, then someone's getting sassy with their title. All right. Let's go ahead and let's lighten the mood a bit. Let's talk about something funny. Let's talk about Hildibrand.
Ah, yes, Hildibrand. One of my favorite Hildibrand adventures, as it's called, Further Hildibrand Adventures.
So this one, naturally, the last time we saw Hildibrand, he was literally flying off into the distance after the Sword of Light literally rocketed him skyward.
And to which Nashu had triangulated his projected direction and said he should be here in Kurtha somewhere.
Yes, and so she was waiting for him in the Foundation. Finds us, and I still love the entry text is you seeing Nashu on the corner.
Makes you feel like you're about to have a bad time.
Makes you feel like you're about to have a bad time. So it starts out with you meeting Nashu and also encountering one of the Inquisitors for the Ishgards.
Yes. Well, first off, you end up finding out that there is a gentlemanly Highlander somewhere in town, to which we find out he is with the Lord Fortomps.
Yes.
And we go there and find out it's not Hildibrand, it's Godbert.
It's Godbert, who is basically
conducting trade deals. To which also brings out a Inquisitor for the Ishgardians. What is the dude's name? Seer.
Which brings out an Ishgardian Inquisitor named Seer, who basically is investigating similar rumors, except the person's undead.
Yes.
Which makes him want to investigate the heresy!
The heresy!
To which, boy howdy, this kid's going to be disappointed. This is a Hildibrand quest line. You are not going to get anywhere with that kind of attitude.
Anyway, we go out into the Kurthus Western Highlands, and instead of finding Hildibrand, we find one of the Gentle Dead Men.
Yeah, one of the Gentle Dead, who befuddles Seer with the fact that, no one has a problem with the walking, talking zombie.
Yes, and he's talking about how I was looking for fellow recruits from this area called the Dusk Vigil. Oh, wait, we just wiped that area clean out.
Yep.
Sorry.
Oh, don't worry. You'll go. Just give it a couple of cycles. They'll respond.
Yeah.
But given the fact that a Gentle Dead is here and they have an innate connection to their
zombie overlord.
To their zombie overlord, it does mean that Hildibrand must be in the area.
Oh, and I should also mention the fact that there's a constant joke about gazebos.
Oh yes, so people keep mistaking gazebos for
dangerous creatures.
Which
is an old D&D joke.
Wow.
It is a very old D&D joke.
Yeah, that's some like chainmail nonsense right there.
Yeah.
But anyway, Hildibrand moment number 1 is actually fetching Hildibrand, as typical tradition dictates. He is headfirst stuck in the ground.
Legs spread apart.
To which Godbert must go ahead, wake him the fuck up by pulling him out of the snow.
No. By getting naked first.
Well, yes, that's the only way he can flex his full power. And by this point, our character is finally caught up on the cues and is backing up alongside Nashu and the Undead Gentleman. To which Seer's like, what is about to happen? To which Godbert yanks fucking Hildibrand out of the heavily condensed snow, knocking Seer on his ass, and then proceeds to basically belly to belly power bomb his son back into the dirt, even deeper than before.
And he's like, was it the Manorville Meteor Dive or the Manorville Meteor Slam?
I knew Julian was right to go ahead. I'd need to
not name this shit.
Name this shit properly. And so, eventually Nashu has to go ahead and resort to the bombs.
Well, no, she doesn't resort to the bombs just yet. No, what happens was, we do eventually pull him out, but what happens is, Hildibrand comes out with a mammoth.
Yes, to which he immediately adopts it as his son.
And names it Gigi, because it doesn't remember who it is, and all it says was Gigi.
Right.
And I love that Seer says, Why do I feel like I've walked into a realm where facts and logic and reason do not exist?
You best believe in fantasy stories there, Seer. You're in one.
Oh, you're not in a fantasy story. You're in a comedy.
Yes. So, Seer is completely baffled by this. Hildibrand is amused with his new son. And so, I think that's where the first episode ends as far as Hildibrand has been found, and now we have this amnesiac mammoth.
And that is where he smells his case.
Yes. So it starts off the next episode with Hildibrand and Nashu arguing about Gigi's gender, to which eventually it's like, let the poor mammoth decide for himself.
To which Lord Ford Tom comes in and says, "'Tis clearly a strapping young lad, is it not?"
And basically he is male-coded for the rest of the series.
Yes, and he is also the instigator saying, "Why don't you adopt him as your son, as a ward of House Manderville?"
Yes. To which he is absolutely enthralled in, and just absolutely mends poor Seer, who's basically like still trying to search for heresy, but all he finds is bullshit.
Yeah, so he's like, and also fucking shout out to Lord Fort Tom's just instigating this chaos.
Oh, I'm retired. I don't give a shit at this point.
And then Seer's just angrily slamming his book all the time, just like, confound it.
So it goes ahead, and so they do the typical walk around town to help jog their memory type nonsense, to which a spoiled Ishgardian boy sees Gigi. And I'm trying to remember if he's freaked out by the fact that he's looking at him funny or something, but basically Gigi has the self-realization moment of, I'm not a fucking kid. I'm a robot. I'm a robot.
Yeah, and then it happens later on when we're in the market area that Hildibrand ends up knocking over a very expensive vase.
To which Gigi instinctively managed to fix it.
By using some weird time magic to revert it back to normal.
And it's absolutely bonkers that he manages to do this.
Yeah.
But it goes ahead and they try to figure out how to better control this power of his. To which he is brought out into the Karthus Wildlands once again. And Gigi basically requests...
he basically asks Godbert to make him into a real boy.
Right, and so he runs away initially from Hildibrand, runs into the snowfields, where Julian and Godbert are having a snowball fight surrounded by dead corpses of dragons.
Not dragons, they're goats.
Or the massive...
They're the antelope-like creatures.
The massive snow goats.
Yes. Yeah, so basically...
So imagine just a happy couple with a snowball fight with corpses around them, because that's how hard they play.
Yeah. Their snowballs must probably knock your brain like something fierce.
Yes. So Seer requests that you go out there and make sure they don't cause further chaos. And Gigi makes this request of Godbert, who does his goldsmithing magic and makes Gigi into a true Manderville man.
No. First off, he gives him the body model of a Lalafell.
Right.
And then he brings out the limit break and turns him into a fucking Rogadin.
Well, he turns into a Manderville man. So he has to be the Manderville man that only a Manderville man can.
And clotheslines his father.
And clotheslines his father proper upon reuniting. Which is just absolutely fucking glorious. And surprisingly, actually pisses off Julian.
Yeah.
And it's not entirely clear why, although it's eventually a case of open mouth insert foot.
Yeah, pretty much just don't call her grandma.
Which definitely causes some issues with the... At least to what we all believe was a rather reasonable woman.
With a frying pan that could kill you. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Basically, the changes that Godbert made got quickly reverted by Gigi's magic, whatever the fuck he's made of.
Right. Whatever spells that are enchanted upon him, his form cannot be mutated.
Yeah.
Which is part of the reason why he reverted back to normal.
And then Hildibrand goes about saying, "You're not just a mammoth, you're a Manderville mammoth!"
Which is, it's not the outside that matters, it's the inside that does.
Yes.
And at least somewhat compels Gigi to at least continue to remain by Hildibrand's side while they figure out who exactly he is and where he came from.
And then he brings up the G word, because he calls he calls
Julian Grandma.
Grandma and Godbert Grandpapa.
Yeah.
And to which we see that not only is Julian not just a warrior, she's also a Dark Knight.
Yep.
Because, holy hell, she put the fear of God in both Manderville men.
She's got grit, that's for sure.
Yeah. And even the Warrior of Light was going like, yeah.
Yes. Well, we've seen what she does when she's just upset that Hildibrand is dead. Never insult a woman's age.
Never insult a woman's age. And so that ends basically the second chapter. And then the third chapter begins with Julian sticking around for a while to keep an eye on Hildy.
Right. So this time the mom decides that she's going to go ahead and hang around with her son this time.
And basically what happens now is that a new case has sprouted up in which some people who have been claiming themselves to be members of the
Heavansward Knights are coming out and basically defrauding old women of their money.
Not just old women, but young women too. They're just defrauding women of their money.
So it seems to be, we start going ahead and interviewing women to try and figure out where these knights are, and then we encounter this crusty old bat of a woman.
Yes.
Like, literally, this woman, absolutely crusty.
Like, she is the definition of the word crone.
I'm trying to remember the name of the security guard from Phoenix Wright. The one that
Wendy Oldbag?
Yeah, she's definitely old bag material.
Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly the vibe that they're going for.
Yeah, just minus the blowhard.
Yes.
But anyway, she gives us a hint that they seem to be in Idleshire, to which we go out and explore and find the location of the house that they are supposedly in.
And so we stake it out. And stake it out. And stake it out.
Yes.
And stake it out.
Although it turns out...
stake it out. And then we basically get so bored, we literally start graffitiing the fucking walls.
Well, Gigi gets some paints and paints the family crest on the building, because it turns out Hildibrand just got himself the house, because he was friends with the goblin who founded Idleshire. He saved the goblin who founded Idleshire, and as a reward, he's kicking out the men who were harassing women and gave the house to Hildy.
Oh, well that's nice, but that still doesn't tell us where the knights are.
And then we see that there were two folks following us, staring at us for a while, and then they flee and we chase after them. And it turns out that they're also a couple of old bastards.
So the part about them being Heavansward Knights wasn't entirely incorrect.
They're just retired.
Emphasis on retired. These old geezers do not have the snuff anymore. One of them is a dragoon. He goes for the legendary jump. He passes out from the bloodlust mid-jump on the rise, sees the divine visage
of his dead wife,
also old bat material, and then basically falls back down to earth, passed the fuck out.
Yes. I believe his name is Orland.
Yes. Something like that.
Yeah.
So basically, it eventually revealed...
the Grand Sirs is what they're called.
The Grand Sirs, and eventually...
Or as Hildibrand Freudianly slips says, Grand Sires.
Right. So the Grand Sirs eventually reveal that the old bat is in fact their leader. She is the head crone of this operation, and basically they are searching for a way to regain their lost youth.
In which they had found the answer in Gigi, to which they had proceeded to kidnap and run away.
Right.
Very slowly.
Right, and to which Seer is absolutely baffled as to, we're not going to stop this?
I don't know whether to laugh or to cry. Perhaps both.
And Julian is also equally disinterested. She's like, no. My son has to pay for his stupid crimes himself. I'm not doing this. He's going to have to learn. He's a big boy now.
Yes.
And I think she's still upset about the grandma comment, which is why she's basically not lifting a single finger for Gigi at this point.
Also, she's not a fan of his investigator shtick either.
Right, but she was at least a little bit more supportive than Godbert was at the time. I think now it's just more of she kind of needs to see it for herself. Because she doesn't understand what brought about her husband's 180.
Yeah.
Especially because Godbert was with us through that entire stretch of ARR. Good lord, that was a long quest line.
Yeah, they get a bit more streamlined now.
Yes. So we go chase them down in
Idleshire. Not Idleshire, but in the Dravanian Forelands.
In the Forelands, in the Sharlayan Quarter. And basically, Hildibrand, being a master of disguise, is going to go ahead and request you to ambush one of the knights and take their armor so he can go ahead and dress up as them.
To which you follow Orland out into the wilderness and tell him... And he's so senile that he doesn't realize it's you.
Right. You basically give him a massage and help him unwind, and you slowly take bits of his armor off, to which you leave this old octogenarian...
in his small clothes.
In the middle of
the marble-infested area.
Marble-infested area. Congratulations, you've left this old man to die. To which the game literally chastises you for doing this ostensibly evil act.
Yes, and also this is where you get the future moniker of Stealer of Pants.
Oh, joy. You take the armor, hand it over to Hildibrand, whose disguise works.
Even though he's just him in armor, he did not change his face at all.
And continues to, and basically barely changes any of his dialogue until he has to speak in character, but manages to go ahead and get Gigi out of the cage. Basically walks him all the way over up to the point that Windbag mentions, we know who Gigi's actual dad is.
Yeah, his real name is, well, first off, Gigi's real name is VB because he's a fucking Final Fantasy IX reference.
Correct.
And his grandfather was Quan, which is also another Final Fantasy IX reference.
And so he revealed...
Archmage is Quan.
So, Windbag reveals that Gigi was basically meant to be used as a sort of power conductor for potential war applications.
Well, it was to revert their ages.
Well, that's what they wanted to do it for, but he basically has the power to undo and restore things to their original form, air quotes.
Yes.
Via time manipulation. And so basically what they want to do is basically use his power to revert themselves back to their prime so they can go ahead for one more heist.
Yes.
But in reality, it's power corrupts absolutely type deal.
Yes.
And so Gigi, out of dedication to his seemingly his true creator, goes off with the Grand Sirs willingly. And given that this is Heavansward, everyone's afraid that the first thing they're going to go do is start beef with the dragons.
Pretty much.
Which we have just fixed. Why are you trying to break what we just fixed?
Yeah, because the next quest line doesn't actually... Because the final quest line happens right in patch 3.5, which is well right after the Dragonsong War is thoroughly done and dusted.
So they're going to try... They are literally trying to restart shit again. And so we basically have to go ahead, hunt them down, find out that they're going to go poke Hraesvelgr. And so we go ahead, chase them down.
Hildibrand tries to chase them down, tries to use the disguise again, but it doesn't work because they're now young again.
Right.
And then Godbert shows up to help in.
Well, no, because of everything, Hildibrand takes a massive, three limit break beating from them.
Well, no, not just...
No, that's later?
That's later.
Okay, so...
We're talking about when we first find Hildibrand.
Okay. He still gets his butt whooped, though.
Yes.
Okay, so Godbert comes back and says, alright, we need to give him another power-up. Get those massaging hands ready. You're going to give him a massage in salamander oil.
No, not salamander oil. Salamanderville. Exalamanderville.
No. It starts off as salamander oil, and then it gets salamanderville extract.
Yeah.
So, but either way, we are giving him the power boost, to which I comment, isn't salamander oil supposed to be toxic?
Yeah, kinda.
So, we are literally massaging... So, wait, why aren't we fucking... You know what? It's a Hildibrand storyline.
Roll with it.
So you basically massage him multiple times, as many times as it takes with feeling, before we can go ahead and get our boy into fighting shape again.
Pretty much. And then we encounter Gigi, who is now very pointy-eyed. Yes. Which is a sign that he's using too much of his magic.
Yes, and so basically, Godbert notes that he's been using too much of his ether in such a short time frame. He's basically going to burn himself out or go kablooey.
Yes. And so Hildibrand tries to reason with him, to which the Grand Sirs end up doing a fucking Knights of the Round limit break on him.
Yes.
To which the ending is fucking Pig's Knee and a Dragoon Dive.
Yep, he actually pulls it off this time.
Yes. And so he's battered and bruised, but he's not beaten down just yet. And Gigi says, I can fix anything. Watch, I'll even fix you. And he tries to fix Hildibrand, and he's still in his tattered robes and stuff like that. And he keeps trying again and again and again, and it doesn't work. And basically, Godbert says, you know this is the way he's always meant to be.
Which kind of breaks Vivi out of his trance.
Yeah. And so the Grandsters are like, well, that's all well and good, but we're just going to get rid of you now and fire off explosions to topple down towers to basically try and crush us, which are going a little too slow. We could probably run out of the way.
Right.
But Gigi does the ultimate sacrifice and does the ultimate Zawardo, shouting out, I am Gigi, son of grandson of Grandmaster Quan and son of Hildibrand Manderville. And this is my story, basically.
Yeah.
And basically undoes everything.
He restores Zenith back to its natural state. Everyone is safe. Hildibrand is knocked out, and the Grandsters are back to being oldies.
Yes. To which the case is pretty much wrapped up. Gigi is basically out.
He's out of commission, but Hildibrand has to take a look at him to see what he can do. Godbert takes Gigi back to see what he can do about fixing him. Julian has a new respect for his son.
Yes, and then Hildibrand does the thing of putting his foot in his mouth.
Well, everything was well and good, and then Hildibrand mentions her being a grandmother again, and summarily gets his...
Well, no, he says, I'm glad you've matured enough to age gracefully.
Yeah, that did not go well.
And then she says, gracefully, you say?
And then fucking yeets him into the next expansion
with a giant skillet. She shoots him into the air, jumps up, and then spikes him through a floating island, and then he is flying all the way from Ishgard all the way to Othard. She literally punted him across the 3 great continents.
Yep.
So,
but we're not done yet. Seer, unfortunately, through all of this, has gone through the entirety of the expansion and has 0 heresies to support himself.
To which he has a crisis of faith, pretty much, and starts looking through forbidden tomes to figure out what's up with Gigi, to which he then gets called a heretic.
And basically has to go on the lam in order to, for assisting the Hildebrands. But, considering that Hildibrand's not going to be using that house in Idleshire much, given that he is, flying, basically takes over it and decides to become an independent investigator for the community of Idleshire.
Yes.
And the ending cutscene basically has him setting up his new house in Idleshire while reminiscing on the painting that Gigi drew.
Yes.
Post questline ending, you go ahead and get a visit from Godbert himself, who brings back a mini Gigi.
Yeah.
Who is basically now in minion form.
Yeah.
He basically says this condensed form will use less etherite, but in order for him to really go back to where he was, he's going to have to restore a lot of fucking ether.
Yeah, so basically, just have him join you on your travels for a while and have fun. And if you actually put him on your island sanctuary, because you can actually have minions wander around in your island sanctuary, it'll occasionally spat out, Who am I?
Mm-hmm.
So he's got amnesia again.
Yep.
Poor thing.
Alright.
But what did you think of the Hildibrand quest line?
A little bit shorter, definitely not as bombastic as, it still had some good moments. The clothesline and of course, the re-debut of Hildibrand was fantastic. Definitely a lot shorter than the fucking slog that was ARR.
Yes, the ARR Hildibrand questline is a little bloated, I won't lie. It is a better case in general, but I think the character interactions and shenanigans of the Heavansward one are bumped up to 11 on this one.
And Seer being the straight man as opposed to you is definitely a very good change of pace.
And as with every Hildibrand episode, there will always be a straight man. Seer is just the first in a long line of many, although I can safely say that the Endwalker straight man is about as straight as a country back road.
I was about to say straight as Urian J.
Fair enough.
My only other thing that I would say that's interesting is the fact that I was also brought privy to this by another short. I did not see I forgot Cat Lady's name.
Nashu?
I did not see Nashu's stalker.
Okay.
So, for those who don't know,
Nashu has a Lalafell stalker.
And so, if you actually pay attention, replaying any of the quest lines, you can find in a scene with Nashu on screen. Do not have it in autoplay, but just look at any scene in which Nashu is on screen and pay attention to the background, and you should find a Lalafell who is in shot. This gets explored apparently later on in the Stormblood DLC, in which you can actually interact with this fucker. He has no plot relevance beyond being a cameo, but apparently he has an obsession with Nashu.
Yes.
And so...
You will notice him by his pink shirt and sun hat.
Usually.
He
sometimes disguises himself to remain incognito, but for the most part, pink shirt, yellow hat.
He gets a lot more prominent in the future ones. Mm-hmm. To the point where he's like, you're not even trying anymore. I can just see you right there. Like, you're literally 3 feet away from Nashu with 2 sticks holding up right next to a bush.
I thought you were going to say, you are literally sniffing her feet right now.
I mean, he pretty much is. Fucking cheese boy.
What? What's that insult?
Because one of the things you could say is that he smells like cheese, and he's like, fair point about the cheese smell.
Okay, that brings I have several more questions, but I'm not going to go ahead and go into that because
like
I'm not
I said,
there
the
yet.
responses to Hildibrand stuff is so funny later on.
Okay. I think we've done a good faffing about. Let's go ahead and get into the patch quest because we're almost at 2 hours at this point.
Yeah, so where we left off, we had just finished...
So we just resolved the Dragon Song War, tossed the eyes of Nidhogg down the bottom of a ravine, never to be seen again.
Yeah, right.
So we actually start off...
With a lovely dinner with Emmerich.
Given what happened both the last time and in previous instances in which the Warrior of Light has been poisoned, and in which I went on my rant about why the hell Hydaelyn doesn't have better healthcare coverage, there was an eerie framing decision in the video in the movie for this, in which you and Emmerich are having a lovely dinner in his abode, and his servants are obviously giving you the courses and passing out the wine, and they trace too fucking long on one of his manservants pouring out a bottle of wine for you all. And it just drives me fucking insane having basically been drugged and letting it cause a mini rebellion. I'm like, are we going to see Emmerich die from poisoning? Is someone going to poison us? Why the fuck doesn't Emmerich have better healthcare? And so I had a mini aneurysm agonizing over one of us was going to get poisoned, only to find out, no, you're good. Just having a lovely dinner with Emmerich and talking about adventures and shit. You know, he would love to come on adventures with you, but sadly he has to be head of state, so yeah, that ain't happening anytime soon.
But then our meal gets interrupted by the fact that Alisaie has returned.
Alisaie went on her own after the Quest of Bahamut.
Yes.
Although if you didn't do that quest line, it's like, oh yeah, she exists. And so you go find out there is a video package where she was tracing down someone else.
She was actually tracking down the Warriors of Darkness, and she got poisoned by the Archer.
To which she's brought back to the
to House Fortans.
To House Fortans to go ahead and seek treatment while we go ahead and investigate what the hell happened.
Yes, and so basically that leads us to the fact that the Warriors of Darkness are targeting the Ixal again in their homeland of Zelphatol to try to make them summon Garuda so they can slay it.
So begins the next dungeon encounter in Zelphatol to go ahead and deal with the Ixal tribe over there.
How was Zelphatol as a dungeon?
Not too bad. I remember watching you play through that portion of it, and so playing through it myself, I didn't feel it was too difficult. Most of the dungeons by this point, I think, are pretty standard, nothing out of the ordinary. Yeah,
dungeons from here on are a bit more straightforward. It's like 2 to 3 waves of enemies, a boss, 2 to 3 waves of enemies, a boss, and it repeats because you got like 3 bosses per dungeon.
Right. And so at the end of dealing with the chief of this Ixal tribe, the Warriors of Light they want to go ahead and throw down and tussle.
Not the Warriors of Light,
the Warriors of Darkness, sorry.
Yeah. They want to tussle, and they kind of give their speech about how they're not from this world,
and that basically their world was blown up because there was way too much light.
Well, their world is on the threat of being subsumed by light.
And so that's the reason they've become darkness. And so their thoughts are, we take care of a world of life, balance will be restored.
Pretty much.
Which is why they need to kill you. And so they figure, you know what, now's not the time, we'll deal with you later.
Yes, and then afterwards we return, we find Alisaie again, now fully recovered. She explains her spiel, and she gets a new outfit.
Yes, and is the first of many changes for her design, as she will be undergoing some of them during this patch.
Yes, because then we get introduced, we get called to Limsa to deal with some other stuff, in which Alisaie finds a little kobold kid named Gabu, who is trying to search for help because their parents have gone missing.
Yes, apparently, because of the Warriors of Darkness machinations, a new kobold leader is trying to go ahead and
summon Titan,
and he's working his own kobold to death for it.
Quite literally, because he's using their corpses to
summon Titan,
which Gabu sees, freaks out, and ends up summoning Titan themselves.
Which starts a unique instance of Titan Hard, which has different dialogue if you're running with this story mission on. Which is something that Ray never got to see because I was playing it only on my Quest playthrough.
Yes, but I completely forgot about that.
Yes.
Because I probably wasn't paying super attention at that point.
Yes, so the raid plays out as normal, but it does have additional dialogue for the quest line. Eventually you do manage to pull out of... you manage to slay Titan, pull the little kobold out.
But he's either in shock or is tempered at this point.
Right, and so it's very difficult, but Alisaie is sort of left to this... It's left ambiguous as to how his resolution ends, whether or not Alisaie would put him down if it turned out he was tempered.
Well, for now, though, Gabu is being placed under watch of the Maelstrom and under protection for now, because Alisaie gives the speech of to deny the plight of others is not strength, it is indolence.
Right. You can't just, and so you see this sort of humanizing moment where she's learned from her grandfather, and that's again more characterization for her that's being brought forward.
And then we get a cutscene of the Warriors of Darkness and a mysterious masked Elzen, whu we fucking know is Urianger.
Right.
And Urianger gives the exact same line that Alisaie just spouted to Ardbert, and basically gives the idea of maybe you should just kill the Warrior of Light. But this is all part of Urianger's plan.
Right. And so it starts off this secondary side plot about Urianger potentially being a traitor going into the next patch quest.
Yeah, well, we're not done yet.
Oh, right, I forgot this one's packed through. So after we deal with this, we get notes of the Almegans getting testy again in the south. Apparently there's a new rebel leader called the Griffin who's trying to go ahead and wrap support to go in and go beat down on the Garlean's doorstep.
Into which we finally return to see Ida and Papalimo.
Yes, so both of them explained that they did get teleported away, ending up with the Almegan resistance.
And they basically dumped their link pearls because they wanted to be safe.
Right, and so while undercover, they put themselves useful by assisting the Almegan resistance, something to which seems to be causing a lot of tension for Ida.
Yes, because one of the resistance leaders actually comes up to her and she starts to act really, really weird.
Forgetful.
Like she doesn't remember him, but he remembers her.
Yeah, and so it's really weird. It's not entirely clear what's going on, but obviously Ida's got some baggage that we're going to deal with.
Yeah, and then we find out that the Griffin was basically trying to get the Amalja to summon Ifrit to help them with the fight. To which we go to the Bowl of Embers to try to stop that, to which we find the Warriors of Darkness again.
Which, it was an entire plot by them to go ahead and basically lure you out into a fight so they could go ahead and attempt to kill you.
To which Alisaie brings out her new weapon, which basically, surprise, she's a red mage now.
And surprise, Urianger is a double agent the entire time. He just was playing the Warriors of Darkness so he could get them to go ahead and force a confrontation between the two of you.
Yeah.
But one in which it would be one that would be equal terms for you.
It's basically revealed that the Warriors of Darkness basically gave up their bodies. They are basically Ascians at this point, and are basically using the crystals of light that they had gained in their campaign to basically survive. And so Urianger tells us to activate our crystals and use all of those crystals to summon everyone to Hydaelyn.
Yes. To which we also skipped over this, but there's a point after Urianger has the conversation with Adalbert, he goes into this long theater kid.
You mean Ardbert?
Ardbert, sorry. He has this huge theater kid speech moment where he soliloquizes, oh, I'm helping these guys out because I need to defeat them, but oh, I'm betraying Alisaie's word once again by keeping things from her. Oh, why must I? Why me? Why? Fucking go ahead and go get laid.
Have a drink with Thancred, for fuck's sake.
Yes. But yeah, so he comes clean and says, yeah, I was trying to lure them out so that way we could have this confrontation and use their crystals so we could go ahead and contact Hydaelyn.
Yeah, and basically offering all the crystals to give enough energy to Hydaelyn to send Minfilia to the First, which is their world, to stop the flood of light.
It's also basically the only time that the remaining Scions get to actually see Minfilia again.
Yes.
Because the first time that we saw Minfilia as the voice of the mother, it was only us who got that revelation and we told them about it. This time, everyone's here for the ride, and that gives Thancred funny feelings, and now he's more sad.
Now he's more sad. Now he's probably going to be spending the next few weeks in the bar.
Yes.
But basically, the whole thing is the Warriors of Darkness were like one life for one world.
Will you not sacrifice yourself to save our world?
And so Urianger flips it and uses Minfilia as the coin to gamble to offer her life to save
their world.
Yes.
Right. And so for the time being, that seems to satisfy the Warriors of Darkness,
who wish to go back to their world, and Minfilia offers sending them back.
Mm-hmm.
And so that conflict is resolved until Shadowbringers, because these were all seeds for Shadowbringers.
Mm-hmm. So we got now with that threat taken care of. Now we can go ahead and focus more on the Almigo situation.
Yeah, because at the end of this patch, we actually start getting a new voiceover instead of Count Edmund.
Yes, now it is Papa Limo.
Papa Limo.
Papa Limo.
Papa Limo, get it right, you fuck.
Papa Lima Beam.
I mean, he is the size of one.
Yes. So anyway, Papa Lima Bean goes ahead and starts narrating as we need to go ahead.
Oh, we forgot to mention this. Minfilia gives us Tup Samadhi, the staff of Louis Soir that he used to fight in the Calamity.
Right, which we turn over to Papa Limo for safekeeping.
Correct. That's
a key point. Yes, you're correct. So we go ahead and we now resume the Almigan subplot, in which basically the Griffin wants to go ahead and attack Baelsol's wall, which is the borderline separating
Gridania and
Alamigo. So we go ahead, and so the preparations are being made to the Grand Companies since everyone's working together. The Grand Companies are going to go ahead and basically stage a unified observation mission on the border to make sure that if shit goes down, none of the violence will be spilling over to their side.
Yeah. I should mention that this information was given to us by an Alamigan resistance member named Minago, who will be important for Stormblood.
She's also someone who is very close to Ida and is part of the reason why Yiga's all the more riled up.
Yes.
It's also mentioned that we go to Lord Iceland to go ahead and ask for Ishgard's support.
You mean Aymeric?
Aymeric, sorry.
Why did you say Iceland?
I don't know. I don't know. But we go talk to Lord Aymeric to go ahead and get support from Ishgard.
Yeah, while everyone else is getting support from the others.
And so he agrees because it's far too long that Ishgard's been staying on the sidelines. We will go ahead and offer our full support. Upon which the joint companies get to the border, and then someone starts staging an attack wearing military colors.
Yes.
Wait, where have we seen this before?
Yeah.
So if you remember the last time someone was placing a false flag operation using the Grand Company's uniforms, suddenly things will start to clear up now.
Yeah, basically the Griffin just got all his resistance members to attack Baelsar's wall, cause a commotion.
Dressed in Grand Company colors, making it seem like the Eorzeans attacked first, thereby triggering a justified retaliation on the Garlean side, and total chaos therefore reigns.
Which then causes us to go through the dungeon Baelsar's Wall, which is the last dungeon of Heavansward.
Which, of course, reveals a sloppy job by Ilberd, who is in fact the Griffin.
Yes.
And he's assumed the role of the Griffin for purposes of, once again, trying to go ahead and free Alamigo, which Rawbond couldn't do.
And so it is also revealed that he was given the Eyes of Nidhogg to implement this plan of his. His plan being to sacrifice all the resistance members attacking Baelsar's Wall and himself, and using the Eyes of Nidhogg to summon a primal on the level of Bahamut and cause a calamity that would free Alamigo.
Right. Of course, not learning from any of the lessons Louisoix has taught us. Thankfully, one who did learn his lesson from Louisoix was Papalimo. And so, when this shit goes down, he tells everyone to get on board the fucking airship and let him do his work. As Yda, unfortunately, knows what he's going to do and tries to stop him, to which Papalimo literally goes, Thancred, take her ass back on the ship. To which Thancred does. And you're given an option to go ahead and stay or go. I presume that if you stay, he basically warps you on the board of the ship and tells you to fuck off.
He basically magic blasts you onto the ship.
Yeah, so I went willingly on board, and so Papalimo pulls a Louisoix, not becoming the Phoenix, thankfully, but sacrificing his full body in ether
to become a mini Dalamud.
To contain whatever the fuck Ilberd is becoming, and give the Scions enough time to plan a counterattack.
I should also mention that the scene of Ilberd's mad dead smile as he holds the Eyes of Nidhogg on the corpses of his fallen brethren is fucking disturbing.
Yeah, it was gruesome, the imagery used, especially the panning to his face is absolutely key on point. Like, it is horror levels of gruesome.
Yeah. Just
to see the war crimes being committed.
Yeah, the cinematic direction of Final Fantasy XIV gets better with every expansion.
So, with that being done, people realize, of course, we only have a certain amount of time before this barrier fades away. We need a counter plan. Enter Nero.
Well, not quite yet. First off, at the end of patch 3.5, we get introduced to a strange Rogadin from the far east that appears in Vesper Bay and promptly collapses from hunger.
I have conquered the seas and made them my own. Now point me to the ninja woman. Passes out.
Yes.
Orion J's looking at this motherfucker and says, "You're gonna fit right the fuck in.
You are a man far, far from home."
Mm-hmm. To which we eventually find out this is Gosetsu, who like Lady Yugiri is also a retainer from Kugane.
Not Kugane, Doma.
From Doma. Basically, he is the samurai to her ninja, and to which he's basically come to retrieve her because his lord has need of her.
Yes. To which he tries to argue with her, but then when he finds out that she is trying to fight the Garleans, he's like, "Fighting Garleans? Why didn't you say so? Point my sword at them."
Yes, and so this guy is very much the direct counterpart to Yugiri in every sense of the word.
Bombastic, loud, huge, and to quote Alize, a voice that could fell a gigas.
Yep. Absolutely a wild man for sure.
I love him. He's one of my favorite characters from Stormblood.
However, he agrees to go ahead and lend assistance to us in regards to the Garlean threat, especially considering that they're still rightly pissed with the Eorzean alliance given the false flag operation.
Yeah, and then we get to where we're having the alliance meeting in Gridania, and Nero shows up, saying, "I have an answer."
To which Sid is absolutely livid that his ex has shown up.
You're not wrong. You're not fucking wrong.
Protest despite, Nero actually does have a legitimate solution, which is what he he found going through
the ruins of Cartano.
The ruins of Cartano, which is the counterpoint to Ultima.
Omega.
And so with assuming that he can get Cid's help, he can go ahead and lead them to the Omega weapon, and help, with Cid's help, probably bring it back to operational capacity and use it against whatever the fuck Ilbert's become.
Yes.
So, having no other option,
we basically go to the Cartno Flats and try to access it, to which we get ambushed by
the Garlean version of Pete.
Yes.
From Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, Grenwalt is, I believe, his name.
Green Grenwalt, who, the Jolly Green Giant, definitely is your instance chewable encounter, because this guy was a fucking joke.
Yes, it's like all my name days came at once.
So good old Name Day gets his butt whooped for his name day, and we promptly send him packing.
Yes,
but not before getting to ride Nero's pimped out Magitech cruiser,
the Red Baron,
to which he loans to us and says, "Don't scratch the paint." And you actually get to use that as hordes of Garlean soldiers flood the field, but you get to go ahead and blast them with AoEs of your own, which is, I gotta say, very fun gimmick for an instance.
Mm-hmm. And to which, once that's taken care of, we go down into the inner chambers of the docking bay for Omega, and Ida is given the honor of activating Omega.
To which she's been sort of on the edge about activating it, in part because it would mean destroying Papa Limo's barrier, but also because it's like, are we the baddies for doing the same thing that he's doing?
Yeah.
To which, again, you wouldn't expect it given your prior characterization of Ida.
Yeah, Ida before used to be quite the bumbling ditz.
Yes. And here she's much more given a lot more thought perspective, and it's very interesting. Nonetheless, she activates the weapon, and you go through a beautiful cinematic of the two weapons fighting. It's revealed that Ilberd has basically become the embodiment of dragon warfare as the god Shinryu.
Yep.
And so Shinryu and Omega fight in basically a sea of fucking ether.
Yeah, and they basically do a big, massive beam clash. Both of them cause catastrophic damage to one another, and are both sent hurtling into Alamigo somewhere, to which we will see them later. You will see Omega in the Omega Raids post-game.
Right. Nero makes a comment about unlocking the car key so that way the Garleans can't get in, to which it seems to be the case, but we'll see if that actually holds up. Meanwhile, Shinryu's disappeared. And then we cut to Alamigo proper.
Mm-hmm.
To which, what is his name, Zalgus?
Xenos.
Xenos is literally sitting on a stand as a soldier comes up and says, "My lord, the fighting of the two primals has caused massive destruction in the field. Should we do something?" To which Xenos literally says nothing, to which the soldier realizes,
"Of course, my liege! Right away, my liege! Right away!" And just chickens out.
And all he can think about is, this is going to be fun.
Oh yeah, Xenos, I've mentioned this before, but you know him as a combat sexual.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that is all I will say.
So are you saying the only reason he didn't respond is because all his blood was in his combat boner?
Pretty much, it was like, the hunt begins.
Mm-hmm. So I forgot to mention this, when Papa Limo's barrier went down,
Ida's markings on her neck, her Archon markings, vanished.
Which causes a lot of confusion, and so the big shoe drops on Ida.
Or should I say, Lise.
Ida died in the Alamigan campaign. She was Elise's older sister. They were both daughters of an Alamigan resistance leader. And Lise, though younger than Ida, wanted to do exactly as her sister did, help out the people of Alamigo and restore their country back.
And so she didn't know how to do it at the time. And so when her sister died, she thought she could make it up to her by becoming Ida.
Well, because Ida was already well known amongst the members, and her sister was sort of a face of the resistance in a way. She was always so helpful and always cherished by others that her presence alone continued to inspire people.
Mm-hmm.
And so she went to Papa Limo and asked for the tattoos, for her to be given fake Archon tattoos, so that way she could continue to escapade as her sister.
Of course, every one of the Scions, or back then the Circle of Knowing, knew it wasn't her.
but they
played along.
They agreed to play along with it, with the exception of the Warrior of Light, who had no idea about this arrangement.
Yes,
and rightly feels
slightly betrayed
at this. Nonetheless, Lise herself feels that with Papa Limo's death and the sort of return to Almigo, as it's determined that basically we have to go in, and so an exploratory crew of Scions is going to be dispatched out there, which includes Monago, Lise, and ourselves.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Lady Yugiri and Gosetsu are going to go back to Doma to go ahead and try and cut the Garleans off at the pass, because knowing them, they're going to go ahead and go there too at some point.
Yeah. Well, basically, Doma is already under Garlean occupation.
Well, if the situation's getting hard in Almigo, it's probably going to get hot in Doma too.
Yes.
And so either way, both we have also agreed to assist Lady Yugiri to some degree, but first we're going to take care of Almigo.
Yes, which then a storm of blood is approaching.
Right. However, Lise, now that she's planning to go back to Almigo as herself, gets a word rotation to Tataru, and we forgot to mention the most important part.
What?
Our ambush.
Our ambush?
In Mordona.
Oh, yeah.
So at a point after we get through Zelphatal, we get told, hey, go meet with Tataru in Mordona. She has something for you. So we go to Mordona. She says, pop him now! Get him! Get him! And we get ambushed by 3 of her assistants as they take our measurements.
Every single inch.
Every single inch, which has very funny connotations because I just figured out how to mod Final Fantasy XIV by the time I got that quest.
So Tataru probably saw something very interesting.
Sloppy.
Oh! God damn it. Bonk, 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 bonk. God damn it. But yeah,
but she takes her measurements so that she can also give us a new outfit, which gives you the
Scion's attire,
Scion's adventure attire,
which I kind of like. I know one of my friends uses it as their main glam.
So my feelings about it, it's one of those things where, because of the way Final Fantasy XIV goes between high fantasy and modern fantasy, it's one of those things where I'm definitely more on the high fantasy side of things, in which I will probably keep it around and dye it at some point when I want a suit glam, but it's definitely not the first one that I'm reaching for.
Yeah, it definitely gives the feeling of, it's your version of Alphino's outfit.
Yes. And so, Lise gets a new outfit, you get your Science Adventurer outfit, and you are dispatched out into the outskirts of Alamigo as you start the new DLC, as you start the new expansion.
Yes. And that's pretty much where we're at the moment. Have you gotten any further in Stormblood?
No, I have not touched any of the DLC yet. I basically the only thing I have done since then was when we initially said we're going to record, the only thing I did was basically pop my crafters from 50 to 60, and that was the last thing I've done for the DLC as far as I'm concerned. While in between our last recording, we did get the last dev diary for 14, in which they were showing the overhauls planned for the classes. Most of it is minor stuff as far as like changes between
jobs.
Mostly just clearing up clutter to streamline some of the classes. I know one of the Dark Knight skills, basically instead of it being 2 separate actions, just chains into itself.
Yeah, basically Blood Weapon and Delirium are basically going to become the same thing.
So you activate Blood Weapon and Delirium Blood Weapon just changes to Delirium. It's not going to be a separate button anymore.
No, Blood Weapon becomes Delirium.
That's what I mean. But it doesn't have to be 2 separate buttons now.
Yes.
It's going to be 1.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Which is going to clear up a lot of clutter on my Dark Knight HUD, because I love Dark Knight's aesthetic in the quest line. I hate the rotation.
See, I don't mind the rotation for it. So.
Well, you haven't gotten far in it yet.
Right, but I'm also building up from scratch, so it also probably helps that I have more time to learn it. The big thing that changed, so there were 2 big changes. One is that warriors are getting a new button for their rotation, which enhances Fell Cleave into Feller Cleave.
Yes,
which is a bit of a joke when everyone was laughing at it just because of the name, but it's apparently going to be a bigger version of Fell Cleave.
Well, and also the Primal Rend, which is a button you got in Endwalker, is going to basically become its own button combo once you've done 3 rotations of Fell Cleave.
Okay.
So that's the main thing.
Okay. And but more importantly, or more interestingly, is the Astrologian redesign.
Yes, with Astrologian, you now draw 4 cards, 3 that you use and 1 that's like your main.
So the way that it works is that you when you would draw cards, you would get buffs that you would apply onto your class. It would give you either a damage buff or a DPS buff or a defense buff. But if you cast it on the appropriate class, DPS, healer, or tank, that buff would be enhanced.
Yeah,
and you would need to get 3 variances: Sun, Moon, and Star buffs cast, because doing so enhances your Astrodyne buff, which goes ahead and has more effects and a longer cooldown if you get more variety. It's kind of like the karma, the chakra system from Monk.
If I recall right, they're also just getting rid of Astrodyne in general.
Yes, so the reason they're getting rid of Astrodyne in general is because the new... Basically, you're going to cast... Rather than drawing 1 card at a time, you could only draw 2 at most, and then draw the 3rd in the rotation. You're going to draw all 3 cards at once, and then go ahead and...
Apply them as needed.
Apply them as needed, and then you would go ahead and have a different cooldown buff, global cooldown buff, that would replace Astrodyne.
Yes. And then, once you've used all those cards, you can draw 3 more.
Yes. The 4th card that you saw is Sweet Club. It corresponds to King of Clubs, King of Blades, King of Hearts, King of Spades. Or Pentacles, I'm sorry. It relates to the major arcana in a traditional tarot set. But basically, that's what the 4th card is. You typically don't... That's, I think, like in the 60 to 70 quest line, what I'll unlock going through Heavansward as a healer. But the main thing is that it's not 1 card at a time for your main buffs, it's 3 now. So that definitely is going to make it much easier for people to apply their buffs properly.
Uh-huh. Another thing I've kind of noted... Well, also they introduced both Viper and Pictomancer.
So they did explain the rotations for both of those classes.
Viper seems a bit complicated to me.
Basically, left sword, right sword, and then there's a dual sword line that you go through.
And then there's a burst mode similar to Reaper.
Yes.
With Pictomancer, you have an animal part, a weapon part, an animal drawing, a weapon drawing, and a landscape drawing. Mm-hmm. And the landscape drawing does like an AoE effect. The weapon drawing does a combo, mm-hmm. and the weapon and the animal part is a build up to a big hitter, mm-hmm. which is kind of interesting. And then you also have your balancing paints, which is kind of interesting because the paints are like addition and subtraction, like an actual painting. Mm-hmm. So it's like 3 elements mixed together to make white magic, and 3 other elements mixed together to make black magic.
Okay. So going forward into Stormblood, I already saw the animation for it. You showed me the opening video to it.
Yeah.
Very much they are focusing on monk and samurai within the
game,
within the highlight, because again, that's what they wanted to focus on. Monk's job quest line has been hinting at going back to Amigo.
Yes.
And so now we're actually hitting that point, so I'm curious to see where it pops off. Red mages also come from Amigo. Samurais are from Doma. So it's going to be very interesting to seeing how all those interact with the story. Mm-hmm.
I remember the samurai questline being really cool. I think most of the meat of it is in the level 50 to 60 questlines, because you're under the tutelage of Master Musosai, and basically you're around trying to cut evil down wherever you go.
Right, wandering Ronin type deals.
Yeah, and basically the deal with it is that he was banished because he raised the pupil that ended up being really bad.
Right.
And so he was dishonored. And
right.
So in order to finish becoming a samurai, you have to slay him.
That sounds very similar to the Red Mage questline, because basically your Red Mage, Zaruntia, basically was part of a Brotherhood of Red, who was betrayed by one of their member who was trying to basically enhance his own magic. And so you have to go hunt down the traitor in a confrontation with him at the end of the 50 to 60 quest line. Mm-hmm.
Also, following along in the samurai story quest is a Lalafell who is trying to record the story of Master Musosai.
And in the Red Mage story, you rescue a young girl from basically the kidnap plot, who decides that she also wants to take the path of a Red Mage. Mm-hmm. Unlike with the Dark Knight, I don't know if she does become a Dark Knight, even though she insists on it, much to Sidurgu's chagrin.
I mean, you literally bring up to Sidurgu that she should become a Dark Knight.
To which he says, "Fuck that noise, I am not ready for mentorship again." And unlike Zaruntia, who's like, "Sure, welcome aboard, here's your rapier and hat, we'll see you at 11.
Yes.
So, very different mentoring styles there. You have said that you put on a poll what you want to tackle Dawn Trail with.
Yes, and so far it seems the winner is Reaper.
Okay.
That was the winner for the poll that I did. However, I was also feeling Summoner, but I'm not sure. And again, also Warrior.
I think that's fair. I'm curious to see if Warrior has any overlap with Hrothmami, because that was like...
That is her weapon.
Right, she is a warrior.
Yes.
And so that I'm curious to see if there's any overlap with that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So you can see my dilemma.
Right. I mean, I would say just, max one out, and then if you have still have experience for it, I would say go into the others.
I mean, my go-to easy job to just do is Dancer, but I'd like a little bit of a challenge.
Right. Do you know if they're going to do anything for Blue Magic? Because I know you mentioned Blue Mage comes from the New World.
Blue Mage does come from the New World. That's not coming until a post-patch.
Okay, so they have confirmed that that's post-patch content.
That is post-patch content, and I don't even know if there's going to be a quest line related to it.
Okay.
Because I know that there was a Stormblood quest line, which I am still working on.
Okay.
But I don't think there was one for Endwalker.
Okay. As for me, my Dark Knight was heavily grinded upon, so it is presently level 64. So what I probably am planning to do is, for my main progression, I'm going to go with Monk.
You're going to go with Monk for Stormblood?
Yes, because I am very curious to see how the job questline is going to play out, given that we're going to Almigo.
Okay.
Secondly, I am planning to do as my main tank job, Paladin, and the reason for that is, again, the Blacksmith questline.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that you have already done Dark Knight questline.
Yes.
And the Dark Knight questline for Stormblood is actually very intriguing.
Yes, it is.
So I'm probably going to go through Paladin and Monk first, and then when I'm pushing past the normal limits for them, because since I had to purchase the Dawn Trail expansion, I also got the Azima earrings.
So now you're leveling up a lot faster.
So before, I only had the brand new ring, which only gets you to level 30. And that doesn't do much, even with revamped ARR standards.
Mm-hmm.
So I was having to actually grind it ye old-fashioned way, basically from 30 to 60.
Yeah.
But now that I have the Azima earrings, basically I should be able to level way faster because of the bonus that it provides.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's why Dark Knight is somehow level 64 above most of my other jobs. And so I'm hoping that between that and my occasional grinding for other things, like if I decide to go for the Zodiac weapon for Monk, that will go ahead and the experience will not drop off as bad. And so eventually I'll get enough to where I will have those classes level faster, and so I'll be able to pass between jobs.
Yeah. Oh, I should have also mentioned when I was doing the Ima relic grind, the first thing you do where you get the 6 crystals, you could actually trade in your Zodiac weapon for the crystals just straight up.
Oh, that's cool.
So if you've already done the Zodiac weapons grind, you can just sacrifice your weapon and just get the things needed to start your Anima weapon.
Duly noted.
Yeah, so that'll give you a bit of a head start.
Mm-hmm. The other thing that's of note is I was messing around with my glamours again, so I'm starting to build a proper glamour. You're gonna have to show me again how you get multiple glamours on the same job, so that it cycles through, because I definitely am interested in doing that. But we'll need to do that another day.
Right.
But just a word to the wise, remember that you can put things in your glamour chest. You don't need to sell them off.
Yeah.
I did that with a couple of the artifact armors that I didn't like, and while that was a shame, I am not missing much, thankfully.
Yeah.
So if there is, for like some of the Valor stuff, I can get the level 50 gear, but the level 60 gear I would have to grind through the
through the hunt train, through the hunt board.
Yes, through the Crusadio or the Centurio clan raids.
Yeah.
Or the Centurio clan hunts. Which isn't that bad, but it's still going to be a grind. Apparently, it does continue into Stormblood, so I can use that to go ahead and assist in my for any of the earlier ones that I need.
Yeah, Centurio works for both Heavansward and Stormblood. For Shadowbringers and Endwalker, it's a different currency altogether.
Yes.
I have no idea if it's still going to be the same currency for Dawntrail or if they're going to do a new one.
Also, what's interesting is that there are actually accessories associated with the artifacts in 60, as well as weapons. Mm-hmm. But you don't know that unless you go talk to Centurio Clan and find out, oh, by the way, there are matching weapons and accessories for this shit.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a real waste. But now I know why that side content even exists.
Yeah, and hunts are something you do like once a week. I just usually do the high-end hunt to get the 100.
Right. You can do the high-end hunt for the 100. You can do the dailies for smaller rewards. But apparently someone has done the math, and you can max out at about 800 per week if you do all the content.
Yeah, and there's also hunt trains, which you'll sometimes see advertised in the main chat, where you're supposed to meet up at this one area, and then you just follow the group going through
and just hunt everything at once, and that gets you what you need.
Yes,
neat.
It gets you special hunts. It gets you special items sometimes, which is pretty cool.
And so you and I went through the Eorzea collection one night and started going through all the glamours we could potentially do, and you and I came to a conclusion.
What?
We need to start doing PvP.
Yeah, sadly, we need to start doing PvP. I've only done a little bit of PvP, namely Frontline, because I am terrified of ever doing Crystalline Conflict, which apparently is the real metagame.
That's the real ranked the PvP content right there.
Yeah, because Frontline is basically capture the flag.
Okay.
Like defend towers, basically.
Okay. And so Crystalline Conflict is team death battle.
Yeah, it's basically you get like a team of 6 against a team of 6.
Which they were advertising in some of the earlier patch.
Yeah, and it's basically tower control.
Yes.
You basically have this one crystal that you got to move across the map to the other side of the board.
Okay. So yeah, there's some armor for glamour purposes that both Ray and I want that we're going to need to go ahead and invest in.
I actually got the main piece that I needed recently, thankfully.
I'm going to have to do the same thing on my end when I get a little bit more time. But by the time that this is recording, Thousand Year Door is already out.
Thousand Year Door is already out, and I've already beaten it.
So I believe in our estimates, SMT5 Vengeance is coming out next.
Yes.
Then it's going to be
Elden Ring.
Then 1 week before Dawntrail.
Yes.
And then we're out of town for our vacation.
Dawntrail's coming out while we're on vacation. I hate that.
Yep.
I am going to be so fucking salty.
You are going to isolate yourself as people are spoiling the game on Twitter.
Oh god, I'm not going to be able to even look at Twitter. Or Blue Sky.
Oh boy. So yeah, that's basically what's on our radars for the future. I'm running through Stormblood. He's going to run through Dawntrail. And we will be right here to go ahead and report you all the juicy gossip when we come back.
Until then, this has been Ray.
This has been Leo, and I need a nap after this 2.5-hour podcast.
See you all in the next Aethercast.
Bye.